Hi, welcome to my channel. The full version of the audiobook is available on my Patreon. You can quickly find it through the link in my profile description. Thank you for your support.
Chapter 1: The First National Youth Training of the First Naturalized Player of Longwa. Highly parallel world, please do not bring it into reality. Any similarity is purely coincidental. Mid-January 2014. Xianghe Football Training Base. Livelier than ever. Today is the first day for the first naturalized player in the history of Longwa football to come to this training base to participate in the U19 National Youth Training Camp. Domestic fans have heard that this naturalized player is an outstanding talent in the Porto Youth Training, and has also represented Portugal U17 in the European Youth Championship. He is a veritable number one star of the national youth team. The fans had expectations, and the media rushed to the Xianghe training base like a shark smelling blood. In the base, the training ground of the Longwa U19 youth team. Young players with good relations in 2s and 3s gathered together for jogging, talking and laughing, preparing for a day of daily training. Brother Ma, you have to be careful later in the training. Martin, who was jogging behind the fitness coach, enjoyed his first training camp with the National Youth League. His friend Wei Xiaohao suddenly ran over and grabbed his arm, whispering. The two played for the youth training of two different Portuguese Super League teams in Porto, Portugal, one in Porto U17 and the other in Boa Vista U19. It is very rare to meet compatriots in a foreign country. Martin, who traveled back to 2023 from 2014, appreciates Wei Xiaohao's ability and frankness. Wei Xiaohao felt that Martin was forthright, knowledgeable and loyal, and he was a friend worth making. Usually in close contact, the relationship is very good. Wei Xiaohao has participated in the Longwa National Youth and National Youth training camps many times, and he is very familiar with many players in the team. As soon as he heard the news about Martin, he immediately informed him. Martin frowned slightly. What's going on? Li Hua, do you know? Wei Xiaohao pointed to a young man with dyed blonde hair sitting in the shade, resting in the shade. He was very naughty, and there were several young men with arm tattoos sitting beside him. If he hadn't been wearing a national youth training shirt, he would have been easily regarded as a hooligan. I know, I've seen his videos, and his level is a bit poor. Your successful naturalization has seriously affected Li Hua's main position in the National Youth League. As far as I know, he is an extremely small-minded person, and he has connections behind him. He has formed cliques since the National Youth League, and he has been domineering for several times. It's okay to shovel people maliciously, I'm afraid. Martin smiled and said, small problem, it's not like you don't know my reaction and force value. Wei Xiaohao shrugged his shoulders and smiled awkwardly. In terms of age, he is 1.5 years older than Martin. Why is he called Big Brother? The reason is that once Wei Xiaohao got too drunk in a bar and accidentally provoked a black guy, and he was frightened at that time. At the critical moment, Martin made a move, 2 or 3 times to get rid of the big black guy who was finding fault. Since then, the pony has become a Brother Ma. After the 10-minute warm-up and stretching, reporters from more than a dozen newspapers who have a good cooperative relationship with the Football Association registered and came to the training ground, set up their equipment, and prepared to shoot the next group match. To be precise, their focus is the first naturalized Martin. The coaching staff arranged the lineup as usual, selecting 63 main players and 11 substitutes for each of the two teams from as many as 7 training teams. The purpose is to select the 19-man roster for the final Myanmar U23 Asian Youth Championship. The 27 people whose names were not called were also self-conscious. Most of them chose to go to the players' dormitory, and only a few stayed on the sidelines to watch the game. Reporters are not surprised, apparently used to it. Martin also learned from Wei Xiaohao that these players came to the National Youth League for gilding. Immediately afterwards, the head coach Zheng Gang arranged similar game tactics for the starting players of the two teams. Martin, who was wearing a red training shirt, put on the fluorescent vest issued by the coach, and walked into the field side by side with Wei Xiaohao. Li Hua, why are you running to the left? You play right back. Zheng Gang suddenly said loudly from the sidelines. I can play both sides. Today I want to play left back, and Amin agreed. By the way, let's try to see if the level of our U19 National Youth's first star is as strong as passing. It was so loud that Martin, who was arranging his socks at the far end of the field, could hear it. Childish. Martin, whose mental age is 30 plus, fell on deaf ears. Zheng Gang knew that Li Hua couldn't be provoked, so he had no choice but to confess, pay attention to your movements, and don't lose your position in defense. Coach, don't worry, you still don't know Brother Hua's ability. That is, how can Sun Hai II of the Dragon Kingdom gain his name in vain? Fart, it's obviously Ram from Dragon Kingdom. Several players on and off the court flattered. Zheng Gang rolled his eyes, thinking that if this guy could be 1/3 of Martin's level, he would burn incense and worship Buddha. He is inexplicably confident and still refuses to change after repeated admonitions. If it weren't for the hard background, he would have been pushed to the bench long ago. Li Hua enjoyed the flattery of his teammates very much, and felt a little smug in his heart. He looked at Martin proudly, feeling dissatisfied immediately. Everyone pays attention, you are too naive for a newcomer. Not long after, a semi-official match with the referee and 2 line referees began. After several consecutive passes, the football quickly entered Martin's defense zone. The left midfielder wearing a red training jersey dunked the ball to the right and gave way to the wing, waiting for Li Hua to go forward to respond. The rib position is guarded by the midfielder. Martin does not need to retract, he just needs to insert Li Hua, who is participating in the attack, after staring. Li Hua received a pass from his teammate and cast a contemptuous look at Martin. Without any bells and whistles, the inside of the instep of the right foot directly pushed the football forward for several meters. Martin has solid defensive skills. He watched all the videos of the national youth players when he submitted his naturalization application, and he is very clear about the technical characteristics of most players. His concentration is very focused, he responds instantly, and the raised arch of his right foot easily blocks the ball from the touchline. Then quickly return to his position and call his teammates to defend the throw-in. Li Hua showed displeasure, feeling that he was underestimated. I'm very angry and the consequences are serious. However, his anger didn't serve any purpose, on the contrary, it affected the normal choice. The defense that switched from offense to defense took a frontal shovel and was easily dodged by Martin, and then he watched him complete the cooperation with his teammates. What makes Martin feel incredible is that the teammate who received the ball didn't intend to move forward, but gave an undercover pass back, which happened to be passed to Li Hua who hadn't had time to return to the defense. Beautiful. Brother Hua's counter-robbing awareness is really good. The younger brother on the sidelines shouted. Seconded. Fortunately, Martin, who didn't trust his teammates very much, didn't rush forward without thinking. He sighed in his heart and quickly approached Li Hua who was looking up. Li Hua had just finished a wonderful interception, and he didn't even notice that Martin was approaching. The sycophant's brother opened his mouth half open, momentarily at a loss for words. After 2 minutes, Li Hua received the ball again, planning to take advantage of his teammates' running position and use the crotch-piercing ball to pass and humiliate Martin. The plot and story are well thought out, but the protagonist is someone else. The football that was launched was intercepted by Martin, who reacted quickly, with his legs back, and quickly launched a counterattack. However, the football was passed out after seeing the teammate's running position, and the teammate who was waving for the ball suddenly stopped and watched the football roll towards the opponent. The amount in advance is so large, how can I get it? The player didn't apologize at all, but turned around and complained to Martin, "Big star, give the ball to your feet." Understand? Martin didn't bother to speak, because he already realized that there was an insider on his side. And not just one. Complaining about passing the ball is obviously to improve his mentality, so he yelled at the left winger Wei Xiaohao, "Ahao, switch from defense to offense and come closer to me." Okay. Half a minute later, Li Hua, who received the ball, humiliated himself again. After stealing the ball, Martin saw Wei Xiaohao's running route, sent a straight pass with his right foot, and then ran at high speed along the right sideline. Wei Xiaohao's speed is one of the best in the national youth team, and he quickly dribbled the ball across the center line. There are only 2 defensive players who are fighting and retreating in front of him, hesitating whether to force a breakthrough. "Give me." Just then, he heard a familiar voice. Wei Xiaohao raised his left foot without hesitation, and used the arch of his foot on the outside of the opponent's center circle to send the football to his attacking right. Li Hua participated in the attack and has not yet settled down. Martin's speed is not particularly fast, but he has plenty of physical fitness and strong ability to run back and forth. Good basic skills allow him to complete the consecutive stops and trips in one go, and then calmly look up when no one is marking. Sure enough, he is a talented player from Porto's youth training. The transition between offense and defense is really in place. The head coach Jin Gang said in a low voice. He even simulated leading the team to the U20 World Cup in his mind. I saw Martin take the ball to the outer edge of the right side of the penalty area in a few strides, swung his right foot before the defensive player was in place, and sent a quick kick to the ground to cut across. Wei Xiaohao, who outflanked and followed up in the middle, scrambled to catch up, and completed a push with his right foot to the right of the penalty spot. Unfortunately, his footwork was not good, and the kicked football brushed the outside of the right goal post and went out of the baseline. Wei Xiaohao didn't score the ball and beat the ground angrily. Martin still gave him a thumbs up, and the raised right index finger was close to the thumb, which meant it was almost there. Brother Ma, the pass is good. Wei Xiaohao returned thumbs with both hands and patted his chest, saying that it was his fault that the goal was missed. It's no wonder that he can enter the Portuguese National Youth League. His offensive and defensive abilities are really strong. The reporters holding the shooting equipment were all moved. On the other end, Li Hua, who lost the ball and almost conceded the ball, did not apologize at all, but thought that Martin did not understand the world. Come to the National Youth Training Camp, don't you know who I am? Thinking of this, he suddenly became enlightened. I just completed the naturalization procedures yesterday, how can I know that I am the top of the national youth? He approached Martin, whispered whether the presence of the reporter could save face, and promised the 23-man roster for the Asian Youth Championship. Football speaks with strength, don't make me look down on you. Martin said coldly. Before he crossed over, he was a substitute player who was in the dragon armor. It's not that his ability is not good, but that he was robbed of his position by a related player who was much weaker than himself at the age when he should increase the ball. Without the ball to play, his level stagnated. What is there to say? If you don't advance, you will retreat. It was not easy to get the opportunity to travel, and the football talent of the predecessor was good. It is not a genius in the Porto Youth Training Camp, but with hard work from the U9 age group to the U17, he was also selected for the Portuguese U15 National Youth and U17 National Youth. The purpose of voluntarily applying for naturalization is to make a small contribution and bring some hope to the lovely Longwa fans. South Korea's Sun Xingmin won the Golden Boot in the Premier League, staged a solo ride for thousands of miles, and won the Puskas Award. Sakura country also has important players who are active in the 5 major leagues, such as Kamada Daichi, Sansakeiru, Fuyasu Kenhiro, and Jio Jianying. Every Dragon country fan was envious. After reliving his life, he wanted to give something to the fans of Longwa. You will pay dearly for your ignorance and arrogance. Ha ha. After more than 4 years, I am publishing a book again in Yuan. I hope that new and old book friends will support me a lot. Fleeting years has always remained true to my original intention, and I will create a work that you can't put it down, handy, for everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. An angry K-related account was expelled from the Football Association, please recommend tickets. In the next few minutes of the game, Martin's attack deliberately bypassed his undercover teammates, and his side got consecutive offensive opportunities. After a multi-foot pass, the football came to the attacking right. Just as Martin parked the ball forward, the opposing left midfielder directly shoveled. Responding quickly, he pushed the football forward with the outer instep of his right foot first, then jumped up with his left foot, and dodged it very cleverly. At first, he thought it was a relatively normal defense. Unexpectedly, only half a minute later, the opposing player shoveled again. Again, dodge it. The player who finished the tackle got up and patted the grass clippings on his body, raised his chin and looked at Martin provocatively, showing his yellow teeth. Li Hua, who was lagging behind to defend, stepped forward and said playfully, "It's still too late to admit my mistake. Why doesn't Martin know what's going on?" He directly returned a middle finger. "Damn it. Jesus can't save you. I said it." The undercover player in the fluorescent vest seemed to do it deliberately, passing the ball twice, and handing the football to Martin, who was forward to participate in the attack. He had observed the position of his teammates in advance, and Wei Xiaohao, who had a tacit cooperation, was closely marked, and the other teammates were very tight and difficult to pass at all. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the opposing left midfielder rushing forward, he almost didn't need to guess, he knew what the opponent was going to do. As predicted, he shoveled sideways while running. Martin was a little angry, but he didn't let it out. He repeated his tricks and dodged by jumping with the ball. What I didn't expect was that as soon as the body fell to the ground, Li Hua rushed over quickly and made a flying shovel movement. The studs are particularly dazzling under the sunlight. Oops. Whoa. There was a unanimous exclamation from the audience. Martin didn't panic, he bent his left foot on tiptoe, and his body jumped up like a spring squeeze to the extreme. But, it was still shoveled. The stressed left ankle twisted outwards at a terrible angle along with the force of the incoming force. The intense tingling pain was transmitted from the nerves in the ankle to Martin's brain instantly, but it disappeared completely in the blink of an eye. The reason. Ding. The system has detected that the host has encountered a malicious foul, and the novice protection period special effect immune injury is activated. Martin, who landed and rolled several times, was terrified after touching his left ankle, which seemed to have never been shoveled. Fortunately, on the day of the completion of the naturalization, the strongest system of Luin that was not fully activated was awakened, and a novice protection period was obtained, otherwise the general idea this time is that there is a high probability that the entire career will be ruined. The so-called novice protection period is to be immune to various injuries caused by opponents, malicious fouls by undercover teammates, unscientific training, and physical fatigue caused by frequent games before the age of 20. What are professional players most afraid of? Injury. The flying shovel with both feet off the ground is aimed at the useless. In the face of successive malicious fouls, the clay figurines were 3 points angry. He got up angrily, and grabbed Li Hua's collar with his left hand in public. Pulling hard, he lifted the whole person up, and slammed his clenched right fist on the face covered with pimples. Screw you. Ah. Accompanied by a scream, Li Hua spat out a few bloody teeth with teeth. Martin was still angry, and stepped forward and raised his right foot to his chest. What the hell, you still want to destroy me? Ah. Li Hua took a few steps back uncontrollably, staggered and fell to the ground. The reporters on the sidelines hurriedly pressed the camera button, and there were continuous clicks. Brother Hua was beaten, let's go together. Li Hua's little brothers rushed over together. Stop me all. The head coach Chen Gang said anxiously. But who among the young people above still wears ears? Wei Xiaohao also rushed over, intending to help Martin. What surprised him was that Martin seemed to have a strong buff blessing when his anger value exploded. With a heroic figure, he throws a left uppercut, a right uppercut. Swing your legs and kick them sideways, twist your waist and whip your legs. Cooperating with the nimble body and one-step quick reaction, he insisted on knocking down several undercover teammates who wanted to stand up for Li Hua at a very small price. Stop it. Martin, you fucking stop me. The team leader Guo Xiaowei, who was watching the play while hiding, saw that the development of the situation was completely opposite to what he had expected, so he rushed into the stadium and yelled at Martin, "Stop! Stop! Didn't you hear when I told you to stop?" "I heard, so what?" Long before the training started, Martin saw Guo Xiaowei sitting on the coach's bench, crossing his legs and playing with his mobile phone. Li Hua continued to shovel and didn't speak, and he didn't speak when he was provocative. A few team members came up and wanted to beat him and didn't speak. Why did you just fight back and wipe out the opponent's dough? You. Leader Guo, stop pretending, you should be very happy now, right? Guo Xiaowei looked at Martin's playful expression and frowned. Which player dares to talk to him like this since he became the team leader of the FA? Immediately feeling offended, he decisively stepped forward and slapped him with his right hand. Martin turned sideways slightly, and dodged quietly. Guo Xiaowei didn't even notice that there was a football on the footing. The body has been severely hollowed out by alcohol and lust in the past few years, and it is too late to see the flash again. His center of gravity stepped on the football with his right foot, and his body slid forward a big step. Seeing that there was about to come a one-word horse listening to the thunder in a silent place, a team member who was eating melon had quick eyesight and quick hands, and stretched out his hand to help, otherwise there was a high probability that he would give Martin a big gift. Cough cough. The melon-eating players and coaches just wanted to laugh, but they thought that the ugly team leader could make them unable to eat, so they suppressed their laughter. Tisk tisk dash. Martin didn't care if there was something or not. He looked at the embarrassed and upset Guo with a half-smile. Leader Guo, what's going on with you? You can't walk steadily after you retired 2 years ago. Fuck. Beat up teammates in public, contradict the team leader. Guo pointed at Martin and said angrily, I am very responsible to tell you that from now on, you are in the National Youth League. No. The future of the national teams at all levels is gone. It's the end. It's the end. Isn't that what you wanted? Martin, who had vented his emotions, had a clear mind, and he had already guessed what Li Hua had taken the initiative to find fault with, the black feet and the team leader's appearance. I took the initiative to apply for naturalization because I wanted to contribute a little to the development of football in my motherland, but I didn't expect. Hey. For personal gain, he would not hesitate to ruin a professional player's sports career. He shook his head in disappointment, and he had already decided in his heart to leave here and return to Europe to continue chasing his dream. Maybe in the future there will be no way to wear the shirt of the motherland, but, you can save the country and show off the prestige of the country in other ways. He reached out and patted Wei Xiaohao on the shoulder, then turned around and walked outside the training ground. Let's go, take care. Guo Xiaohui was taken aback when he heard this. It wasn't until Martin walked out of the court that he came back to his senses, and said angrily, don't think I don't know what your purpose of naturalization is. At that time, you won't be able to get any contract from the Dragon Super League team even if you ask for it. Armor doesn't work either. Obviously, he believes that Martin's active naturalization is for the increasingly popular Dragon Super contract in the football market. It's a pity that the narrow pattern determines the upper limit of thinking. Long National Football Association Headquarters Building, Office. What do you think of what team leader Guo mentioned? The behavior of the naturalized player Martin is really bad. He openly beat his teammates under the noses of the coaching staff and media workers, and publicly contradicted and humiliated the team leader Guo. He left the team freely and privately. There is no organization and discipline. Li Jiankong, director of the technical committee, suppressed his anger and tried his best to make his words as righteous as possible. Fortunately, I communicated with the reporter in time, otherwise the impact would be incalculable. I suggest that Martin apologize to Li Hua and Guo leader in person, and permanently expel the international team. Report to the police. I don't agree with Director Li's point of view. Yang Jiangwo, deputy director of the youth training department, objected. Martin was indeed beaten, but we can't look at the problem regardless of the facts. As far as I know, it's because Li Hua's skills are not as good as others, and he became angry because of his continuous malicious shoveling with good teammates. For the subsequent counterattack, I think a little punishment is enough. What about contradicting team leader Guo? Wang Dawei, head of the competition management department, asked. This. Yang Jiangwo was at a loss for words for a while, and didn't know how to refute. Lei Zhou, the director of the media public relations department, followed up. Director Yang, I heard that Martin's naturalization was arranged by you, right? Is that the case? Zhong Zhonghua asked. Yes, President. Yang Jiangwo frowned and said truthfully. As a former football player, I have a great say in this aspect. Let me just say a few words. You can't put the cart before the horse when looking at the problem. Let's talk about the cause first. There is no doubt that the flying shovel with both feet off the ground is extremely bad, or one after another. It's normal for Martin to be angry. What are professional players most afraid of? Injuries. I understand. Yi Zhixing, the vice chairman who ranked at the bottom, said loudly, but I don't support it, but the impact has been controlled in time, and it hasn't brought any bad social guidance, and Li Hua is fine. Considering the Asian Youth Championship immediately, I suggest each write a deep self-criticism. As for contradicting team leader Guo, it's just a matter of impulse, young people. His career is known as Dragon Country Pele. Everyone is willing to save face by taking the initiative to speak this time. Just as Guo Xiaohui was about to speak, Li Jiankong hurriedly said, Li Hua lost 4 teeth and 2 broken ribs, and is still lying in the hospital. Is it all right? If you take 10,000 steps back, even if there is a reason for the incident, it would be too much to attack. Is it heavy? Sigh. Everyone took a breath when they heard the words. It's really hard to start. Yang Jiangwo saw the trick. Don't look at Martin as a normal person, the examination given by the hospital can constitute a minor injury. I see that both of them have suffered quite a lot of injuries, why don't we wait until the injuries recover? The vice president, Yi Zhixing, smiled slightly, and cooperated with Yang Jiangwo. Seeing that the big event is about to be reduced to a small one. Zhong Zhonghua, who watched the excitement for a while, knew that it was time for him to appear on the stage. He said solemnly, I think this matter should be handed over to the disciplinary committee to deal with it according to the rules and regulations. Everyone's time is precious, and we should discuss too much about the unexpected incidents that occurred in the National Youth League. It's a bit wasteful to send things out, what do you think? Yang Jiangwo was instantly dumbfounded. How could he fail to understand the meaning of the new president? Sighing, he had no choice but to give up in the end. Send a favor at a critical time to facilitate future work. Refuting Zhong Zhonghua's face now will not keep Martin, and it will be difficult to do work in the future. Agree. 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 Everyone voted with a show of hands. Yang Jiangwo and Yi Zhixing, who had abstained from voting, looked at each other and shook their heads wryly. They had already guessed what would happen to Martin. Fire. The few people who had succeeded in their plot looked at each other, and their brows were filled with the color of victory. End of this chapter. Chapter 3 System fully activated, compensation for supreme talent. Please recommend tickets. Hashtag about the decision on the punishment of the national U19 youth football team training player Martin for violating regulations and discipline. Hashtag 2014718U1911B11. In the 34th minute of the game, the naturalized player Martin, who played for the Porto U17 youth team, maliciously retaliated, beat the laid-off U19 youth team player Li Hua, and publicly humiliated the team leader Guo Xiaowei. According to the report of the coaching staff, the supervision of the media workers and the hearing of the on-site staff, the above-mentioned repetitions are all true and effective. According to the Dragon National Football Association disciplinary guidelines, the disciplinary committee of the Dragon National Football Association imposed the following penalties on the player Martin. Order player Martin to publicly apologize to player Li Hua and team leader Guo Xiaowei on social media platforms. 2. A fine of Dragon coins. Expelled from the famous team abroad, no consideration will be made within 5 years. Whether to be recruited in the future will be decided according to the player Martin's personal attitude of admitting his mistakes. This penalty decision will take effect immediately from the date of publication. The Dragon National Football Association will, in accordance with the provisions of the Dragon National Football Association disciplinary guidelines, resolutely and seriously deal with all kinds of violations of regulations and disciplines, and purify the atmosphere of the game. It is hoped that all parties involved can jointly maintain the order of the game and the hard-won football development environment. Long National Football Association Disciplinary Committee. Wang Xiaoping. July 19, 2014. On the bulletin board on the homepage of the Longhua Football Association's official website, a penalty decision was updated. At the same time, Martin, who was packing his luggage at the hotel, suddenly heard a beep from the system. Ding! The system detects that the host has been expelled from the Dragon National Football Association. The strongest system in Luin is fully activated, and the host Martin has full access to the system. What? He frowned slightly. Ding! Congratulations to the host for fully activating the system. The compensation package has been sent to the mailbox. Please check the host carefully. The system beep sounded again. When Martin heard this, he was ecstatic in his heart, and then cut out the system with his thoughts. The day of completing the naturalization procedures is the hidden condition for triggering the awakening of the strongest system in the Green Forest, but in the words of the system guide, it has not been fully activated, and there is only a novice protection period of invincible defense. Functions and permissions are almost equal to none. At that time, I asked when the system could be fully activated, and the guide said to see the opportunity. Now it seems that the so-called opportunity is to be expelled from the Football Association. But, isn't this system a little bit too? The hidden condition of the awakening system is to complete the naturalization procedures, and the full activation is to be expelled from the Football Association. Why bother? System guide, warning once verbally, if the host commits another crime, Martin. Oh, open. And temper. Originally, I wanted to ask what would happen if I committed another crime, but after thinking about it, I still felt that one thing more would be better than one thing less. System, asterisk. Immediately, the displayed main page attracted Martin's attention. He remembered that the first time he switched out of the system page was a gray color with no visual experience. The fully activated system page has a bright color matching, making the whole picture full of appreciability. Every plant and every tree is lifelike, giving people an immersive sense of sight. Ding! The host's current personal ability has been attribute-based according to the strength of professional players in this world. For details, please open the attribute panel, or consult the system wizard. After issuing instructions familiarly, the page in front of him changed instantly. At his visual comfort distance, a fixed makeup photo of himself wearing a Porto jersey appeared. Next to it is the profile. Host, Martin. Age, 17 years and 239 days. Height, 182 cm. Weight, 68 kilograms. Function, right back, a new position can be unlocked by serving more than 10 times. Dominant foot, right foot. Right below the information is the total attribute, and right back, of personal attributes. The data displayed by default is total attributes. Body. Ding. The host opens the attribute panel, starts a professional football career by default, and triggers the main task, frequent. Before Martin had time to view the complete personal attributes, he heard the system prompt mentioning, main mission, and quickly switched to the taskbar. Main task, fledgling. Task requirement, enter the first team. Task reward, normal gorgeous treasure chest, note, the shorter the time, the better the reward. Task time limit, before the end of the 2014 to 2015 season. The reward chests are divided into 4 grades. Ordinary, refined, precious and gorgeous. Common treasure chests contain items such as a small amount of green coins, physical potions, and time-limited experience cards that increase attribute capabilities. If you are lucky enough, you can also get top-level talents and skills that are not weaker than the gorgeous treasure chest. It's just that the probability is low and it's almost impossible to achieve. The exquisite treasure chest is still an advanced item based on green coins, wearable props with a small amount of attributes, and free distribution of attribute points. Starting from the precious treasure box, the items inside began to be converted into talents, skills, characteristics, star-exclusive fame skills, etc. Gorgeous treasure chest, the items are top-notch. As for why the rewards are floating, the reason is that the task rewards are determined according to the time to complete the task. The less time it takes, the better the rewards. As the saying goes, a soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier. Putting it here with Martin means that if you don't want to get the best rewards, you are not a good traveler. Sitting on the sofa, resting his chin on his hands, he looked worried when most of his attributes were below 60. With my current personal ability, I'm afraid it will be difficult to enter the first team in a short period of time. The voice of the system guide appeared in my mind at just the right time. The host still has a compensation gift package that has not been claimed, maybe, it will help. Ness. When Martin heard the words, his face beamed with joy, he turned his head and immediately received the compensation gift package from the mailbox. Open. Accompanied by the colorful streamers that jumped out, a square box with the word, compensation, appeared out of thin air, and after continuous shaking, it suddenly opened. Followed by the familiar beep. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting 1,000 green coins. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining free distribution of attribute points *20. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the supreme talent, Master of Defense. The compensation package was opened, and the text explanations corresponding to the items appeared in front of my eyes. Levian coin, the special currency of the system mall. Free allocation of attribute points, independently allocate attribute points to improve attribute capabilities. Defensive Master, all your defensive abilities have been correspondingly greatly improved, and you have acquired the characteristics of one-on-one defense, absolute defense. Absolute defense, feature one-on-one defense against offensive players, an additional 50% defensive success rate. Oh huh. At this moment, Martin felt a surge of cognition that definitely did not belong to him. Soon, he merged with his own consciousness at an extremely fast speed, as if he was born with it. To put it simply, I have a deeper understanding of defense. It can be said that it is the defensive ceiling of the green world. Look at the eye-catching talent, Defense Master, explained. My heart is full of joy. Not to mention that all defensive abilities have been greatly improved, the built-in features are simply awesome plus. One-on-one defensive offensive players get an additional 50% defensive success rate. Anyone who has played online games knows that the bonus is that they do not occupy their own probability. He has already acquired the talent, Defense Master, and his defensive ability must be outstanding. Adding an additional 50% defensive success rate is simply like adding wings to a tiger. Even facing Messi is worthwhile. You don't need to deliberately imagine, a very burning scene pops up in your mind. The UEFA Champions League Stadium, the Camp Nou Stadium, which attracts worldwide attention, is full of cheers and tsunami, and the atmosphere is frenzied. The extraordinary King Messi received the ball and got a semi-single-handed chance. Fans all over the world thought that he would easily break through himself and score a single-handed goal. The results of it? With a confident and warm smile on his handsome face, he fought and retreated. At the moment Messi made a breakthrough, he completed an understated frontal defense, saving the whole team with his own efforts. Messi, whose football was broken, put his head in his hands, showing an expression of disbelief. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? Afterwards, the victims turned into extraordinary kings such as Neymar, Hazard, Robin, Sulla. Hey hey hey. The smile gradually became obscene. Hey, hey, please pay attention to the host's image, the saliva is flowing out. Martin. There is a small exclamation mark in the upper right corner of the explanation of the supreme talent, send the command, and the feedback is that the talent and skills are divided into 3 levels. Normal, excellent and supreme. A new book is uploaded, please recommend a ticket. The new book issue is updated twice a day, divided into 9:10 a.m. to 5:07 a.m. and, frowny-face, p.m. to, frowny-face, p.m. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 Encouragement is the main focus, please recommend tickets. Cough cough. Martin coughed lightly, calmed down, and focused on the second item. 20 free attribute distribution. How should it be distributed? Run quickly through the command issued, and the screen immediately returns to the personal attributes. Physical attributes. Strong, 51, note, full value 100. Physical fitness, 81. Bounce, 55. Speed, 73. Acceleration, 75. Aggression, 58. Shoot attribute. Archery, 46. Long shot, 39. Penalties, 57. Seat selection, 47. Shot power, 58. Volleys, 43. Pass attributes. Crosses, 59. Arc, 52. Free kicks, 47. Short passes, 61. Long passes, 45. Field of view, 60. Technical attributes. Flexible, 61. Balance, 59. Possession, 53. Calm, 67. Dribbling, 50. Responses, 78. Defensive attribute. Headers, 61, plus 15. Interceptions, 96, plus 43. Man marking, 95, plus 45. Tackles, 97, plus 42. Steals, 96, plus 41. GK attribute. Saves, 13. Open big feet, 21. Handball, 18. Talent, Master of Defense. Features, Absolute Defense. Skills, none. Free assignment attributes, 20. Green coin, 1000. Looking at all 32 attributes, it feels pretty good. Aside from the substantial increase in defensive attributes brought about by Defense Master, 81 stamina, 70 plus double speed and 78 reaction are already very good. 95 plus various defensive attributes give a sense of security. He knows that this is an important attribute for him to settle down in world football. I couldn't help but think of the national youth group match at the Xianhe training base yesterday morning. At that time, there was nothing but the novice protection period, and they ruled the entire wing with their raw ability. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. It's almost like a delivery guy knocking on the door, the food is here. Immediately, he put aside distracting thoughts. Seeing that the header value of the defensive attribute does not seem to increase significantly, I asked curiously, no, the header is counted as the defensive attribute. Why is there such a small increase? The system guide explained patiently, Defense Master, has already had a very clear explanation. The substantial improvement is for all defensive capabilities rather than all defensive attributes. The header can attack and defend, and the defensive attribute is counted by the system according to the position of the host. Strictly speaking, it is an offensive attribute. All right. How to distribute? Rain and dew evenly? Or, a headache? Martin looked melancholy again. The system advises the host to place the selection range in the usual position. A word to wake up the dreamer. He quickly changed the attribute panel display from total attribute to right back. Strong, 51. Physical fitness, 81. Speed, 73. Acceleration, 75. Crosses, 59. Short passes, 61. Responses, 78. Headers, 61. Intercepts, 96. Man-to-man, 95. Tackles, 97. Steals, 96. Looking at it this way, the attributability is very impressive. Martin's confidence instantly rose. Of the 12 important attributes that highlight the ability of a right back, only strong and cross are less than 60. How about 10 o'clock each? After thinking about it, he rejected the plan. Fullbacks are not very demanding on whether they are physically strong. Besides, I am still young, and a strong body can be improved through scientific exercise and diet. There is no need to spend a few attribute points on attributes that are not eager to be strengthened. Good steel must be used wisely. Negative strength, all added to the biography. My heart is more excited. The current defensive ability is superb, the ability to run back and forth is strong, and the 2-speed is not bad. Adding all of them to crosses can increase to 79, and the ability to assist and score crosses participating in the offense will be greatly increased. What are the essential qualities of a world-class fullback? Strong body, super defensive ability, terrifying back-and-forth running ability, wind-like speed, and precise crossing. To choose a perfect right-back template, none other than Maicon at his peak. Too bad it's too short. Peak period. Martin is still very self-aware, not too ambitious, and some are step by step. It's not very happy to add all the attributes to pass. The reason? The system wizard mentioned in passing that free allocation of attribute points should give priority to attributes that are difficult to enhance through training. Chuanzhong is an attribute item that is easier to strengthen through targeted training in the system training ground and the real world. Scan the attributes of the right back. Move your heart. He remembered that someone said that the most enviable talent of a professional football player is his lack of injury and speed. Being less prone to injuries can ensure that players participate in enough high-quality games so that they can continue to improve. Speed, on the other hand, is difficult to get extreme enhancement through training. How fast a professional player can run depends more on his talent. That person also once said that most people's 12-meter performance can be improved to within 11 seconds through scientific training methods, but if they want to run under seconds. Without talent, even if you put in several times more sweat than ordinary people, it is difficult to break through. Throughout the world of football, most of the top players who are remembered have amazing speed. It's not that you can become a star with fast speed, but that speed can better reflect a player's strong personal ability. It is one of the important conditions for a player to grow into a star. Football games are changing rapidly, and handling the ball even 0.1 second faster than others is the key to determining the trend of the game. Familiar Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Messi, Kaká, Neymar, Hazard, Bale, etc. In addition, even if all the attributes are added to the pass, it is only 79. What if you add 7 points to speed and 5 points to acceleration? The double speed reaches 80, whether it is participating in offense or returning to defense, the visual impact will be greater. Anyway, the time limit for the main task of entering the first team is still very long. First, let's raise the personal advantage attribute and then raise it up a wave, so that the coaches of the youth team can make up their minds in comparison with each other in the same position. Of course, he can also choose to increase the double speed through training. However, the system guide mentioned that special training for attributes exceeding 70 will drop by 70% compared to attributes of 50, and double speed is one of the few attributes that grows very slowly through training. So Martin quickly decided that he would madly point plus after the two attributes of speed and acceleration until double 80. There are still 8 points of attributes that can be assigned, and after a moment of hesitation, they are respectively at double speed plus 2. The remaining 4 points are easier to choose. He adds reaction plus 2, cross plus 1, and physical strength plus 1. After adding points, an option pops up on the main page. Whether to add points according to the current selection. Yes. The order was issued, and the attributes of the right back in front of him instantly took on a new look. Strong, 51. Physical fitness, 82, plus 1. Speed, 82, plus 9. Acceleration, 82, plus 7. Crosses, 60, plus 1. Short passes, 61. Reaction, 80, plus 2. Headers, 61. Intercepts, 96. Man-to-man, 95. Tackles, 97. Steals, 96. Ness. Looking at the dark blue and red to purple right back displaying attribute values, Martin raised his arms and shouted excitedly. Fortunately, it was in a hotel room, otherwise, there would be a high probability of being regarded as a psychopath. The attribute has been strengthened, and he also clearly feels that the strength of the calf is stronger, and it is obvious that the explosive power has increased significantly. Wait until the excitement of getting stronger is over, and focus on coming to the system mall. Let's see what 1,000 green coins can do. After a cursory glance, he exited the system decisively. Excuse me, farewell. There are not many items that he can buy with his existing green coins, and they are not very useful. For example, add 1 or 2 time-limited equipment with various attributes, physical potions, training efficiency packs, etc. Items that have practical effects can't be bought. The talent/skill lottery starts at 100 Luine coins, and there is no guarantee that % will be drawn. The price of talents that can greatly improve personal abilities starts at 10 green coins. Ordinary talent is 10 to 40 green coins, and excellent talent is 50 to 90 green coins. The supreme talent is at least 1 million green coins. The supreme talent, Master of Defense, obtained with a burst of character is priced at 100 million green coins on the talent page of the mall. Then, the screen transitions to the achievement page. According to the system wizard, the achievement page is all kinds of achievements in professional football career. After completing a certain achievement, he will automatically receive the corresponding reward. But at this moment, the mobile phone on the coffee table rang, and his consciousness returned to the real world. That night, at the Capital International Airport, at the security checkpoint. Uncle Yang, thank you very much for taking me to the airport. Martin stretched out his hand to hold Yang Jiangwo with a sincere expression on his face. You are a very capable young player, what a pity. Yang Jiangwo held it tightly, and looked at Martin with eyes that still had dark bags under his eyes, full of regret. I tried to object, but, there is no way. He is a low-level official of the Football Association, a deputy director of the youth training department who has been almost emptied. People speak lightly. I really want to bring some changes to Longwa football in my heart, and it is he who handles the naturalization of Martin. The intention is to let Martin's arrival create a catfish effect environment to stimulate domestic players. Unexpectedly, on the first day of joining the team, he would be jealous and targeted. If it wasn't for his quick response, he might be lying in the orthopedics department of a tertiary hospital in the capital right now. After the ticket was issued, Yang Jiangwo also figured it out. A national youth player, no matter how big his background is unlikely to be so brainless. Li Hua, who has a criminal record, is a useless person who acts rashly. How can he go flying with good teammates like yesterday? It is now attracting attention. Martin. Then there is only one reason, someone instigated behind it. If you think about it, there are only 11 starting players for national teams at all levels. Except for outstanding players who are capable and handle the relationship with the Football Association, most of them are more or less related. Doesn't the reuse of naturalized players mean that the living environment of local players is compressed? It also means that the cake that originally belonged to the conservative diehards is passive. These guys are vegetarians. Hateful. Actually, that's fine. Running back and forth will cause physical fatigue, and injuries will affect my career. Martin appeased Yang Jiangwo, who was worried about the national football team, and pretended to be relaxed. In any case, I am now a glorious Longwa. It is a pity that I cannot wear the national team jersey, but I will train hard in the Porto youth team and strive for an early victory. Promote to the first team, participate in the league, the Champions League, and join the Giants. Let the whole world know that there are players in Longwa who can stand on top of the greenery. Martin, full of enthusiasm, said this, and patted Yang Jiangwo's shoulder with his left hand. Uncle Yang, work hard, I hope that one day you will be able to sit in that position to realize your ambition. How about we cooperate again at that time? As a time traveler, he knows that this day will definitely not come, but it is very cruel for a dream chaser to accept the reality, so encouragement is the main thing. Such people are worthy of respect. There will be that day. Yang Jiangwo was full of longing, his eyes showed anticipation. I will personally invite you when the time comes. Will. Martin patted him on the shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. I believe you can do it. End of this chapter. Chapter 5 Internet Public Opinion and Wei Xiao's Opportunity. Please recommend tickets. Martin boarded the flight from the imperial capital to Geneva, Switzerland, and transferred to Porto. The latest announcement and punishment information released by the Football Association's official website was forwarded to Longwa's largest social media platform, Bib. Cooperating with insiders to accidentally release videos and photos with the head and tail removed, it immediately caused a huge sensation. #shock, the unknown side of Martin, the first naturalized player of Dragon Kingdom, he even beat up his competitors in public. #New generation football bad boy, who is responsible for naturalization, must be held accountable. #The Grapevine, Martin is also a villain in Porto U17, and his predecessor Pepe is the template. We don't need a naturalized player who insults the country's reputation, get out of Dragon Country. Netizens who didn't know the truth looked at the Football Association announcement forwarded to the Bib, and were quickly caught up in the rhythm of reports taken out of context. Several domestic sports big versus also joined in the judging, thinking that the Football Association's naturalization test was undoubtedly a failure. Some football experts, media reporters, and retired national football stars in the circle updated their scarves one after another, expressing their denial of naturalization, and hoped that some people from the Football Association will stop engaging in this kind of show operation. The healthy development of Longwa football still needs its own people to complete. Many fans and netizens lack correct judgment, lose themselves in waves of rhythm, and join in the criticism of Martin. In short, I had so many expectations before, but now I am so disappointed. The overwhelming abuse swept across the Longwa football circle. I have long disliked the first naturalization full of gimmicks. Do you expect a foreign player who was born and raised abroad to have a sense of belonging to Longwa? Developing a bad habit of being self-centered abroad, we Longwa people are not used to you. What the FA has done is not particularly good. If it were me, I would definitely be expelled permanently. I heard from my old cousin who works at the Xianghe training base that Martin became angry after being cut off with the ball in a row. He first shoveled, and then punched if he couldn't hurt someone. It was terrible. Team leader Gui even tried to calm Martin down for a while, but he almost even the team leader fights. I think this kind of person should be directly deprived of Longwa nationality. It is said that Li Hua broke 2 ribs and lost 4 teeth. How can this Martin be a player? He is simply a gangster. Fortunately, it was discovered early, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. If it broke out in the Asian Youth Championship, how much negative news would it be? The country's face will no longer exist. The luck of misfortune. It is our national youth vice team. Of course, not everyone is led by the rhythm. There are also some fans and netizens who are calm-headed. They are all too aware of the virtues of the FA. Some senior national football and laid-off fans know Li Hua's virtues, and he has always been the one who messes with others. Where have you seen anyone take the initiative to target him? What's more, a Porto youth player who also participated in the European Youth Championship on behalf of Portugal's U17, would he be annoyed by a player whose ability is not at the same level at all? There must be some ulterior secret behind such a denigration of a naturalized player. But this kind of netizens is a minority after all. Even if someone speaks uprightly, they will be submerged in the rhythm of the navy. Public opinion on the internet was hot, and Wei Xiaohao, who was lying in the dormitory with his mobile phone, was struggling very much. He didn't know if he should stand up and say something for Martin, or if he was hesitating. As Martin's only friend in the National Youth League, team leader Guo Xiaohui has already warned him. Once you help Martin fight the injustice, it means standing on the opposite side of the FA. You don't need to think about it to know that the result is likely to be expelled from the team like Martin. More than a year of hard work will be in vain. At the beginning, I had a fight with Luning Football School and went abroad to study abroad, not for the development of Longguo's football career, but to join the player agency company founded by Guo Xiaohui's younger brother. Fortunately, I will return to China in a few years to make better money. Export to domestic sales. Thinking of Martin's care in Porto and taking care of him in times of crisis, I felt more and more entangled. After several hours of fighting between heaven and man, he finally decided to tell the truth on the account verified by the scarf. #U19 national youth player Wei Xiaohao guarantees his character and reputation. The Football Association's announcement is a distorted fact, and it's a blow. The naturalized player Martin made an angry shot after being shoveled continuously. It is justified to fight back. All of the above are facts. I swear to God, if there is half a false statement, there will be 5 thunders from the sky. Click, send. Wei Xiaohao let out a long breath, and a long-lost smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. What I didn't expect was that the bib had just been released, and some concerned netizens made mocking remarks. Excuse me, do you have character? If you have character, you will break up with the home team. Tell me, how much did Martin give you? Ha ha ha, just to fight back, are you going to laugh me to death? I just said why the thunder suddenly struck, so you were the one who swore. How many times did you get struck? Both of them are in Porto, so they should have a good relationship, right? Those who are close to red are red and those who are close to black are black. You are not a good person. It should be called Wang Xiaoping who also kicked you out. Purify the atmosphere of the national youth. Wei Xiaohao glanced at a few comments, and almost died of anger. What made him even more depressed was that within 2 minutes, the leader called and asked to delete the scarf immediately, and the release account was hacked. This time Wei Xiaohao was tough enough, and he said bluntly that he would not delete the scarf, even if he was fired. So, the next morning, Guo Xiaohui called him to the office and asked him to pack his things and go back and forth. After 16 hours of flight including transfers, Martin's flight finally arrived at the apron of Francisco Carneiro Airport in Porto. He stretched, and habitually took out his phone to check the time. 8:30 a.m. local time. The airport is not far from the Vitalia Park training base, and it takes less than 10 minutes by taxi. Feeling good mentally and without any physical fatigue. Coupled with the unsolvable effect of the novice protection period, he plans to go directly to the Porto Youth Training Base. The Portuguese Youth Academy strongly supports young players to skip the next level. His good friend Ruben Neves in the Porto U17 youth team has been appreciated by the first-team coach Lopetegui. Completed his personal professional debut in the 2014 season. On the other hand, I have reached the age of 17 and have not yet met the minimum requirements for the U19 youth team. According to the rules of the Youth Training Academy, one must find his own way out when he reaches the age of 18. Now that his strength has soared, with sufficient ability and self-confidence, he firmly believes that he can complete the triple jump like Ruben Neves. But before that, he must gain the trust of the U17 youth team coach Simon, and then get the approval of the youth training director Paul Noga with his stable performance. At that time, Paul Noga will recommend to the first team as soon as there is an injury position in the first team lineup. After getting in the taxi, Martin played with his mobile phone board. He opened the scarf, which was still relatively upright, to see if he could get something. What I didn't expect was, the one who planned to eat the melon turned out to be the one who was eaten. Fortunately, I was mentally prepared when I was expelled from the team, and there was no panic attack. Surprisingly, I also came across a reprint of the latest announcement on the official website of the Football Association. Wei Xiaohao was expelled from the team for missing training without reason. After making an international long-distance call, I learned that it turned out that I was speaking out for myself, and then I was warned by the Football Association and expelled on trumped-up charges. Martin looked out the window at the rapidly receding scene, lost in thought. According to the original historical development, Wei Xiaohao was the thigh of the Longwa U19 national youth in the Myanmar Asian Youth Championship. He scored twice in the first game to help the national youth beat the championship favorite Sakura country 2-1. Then Wei Xiaohao is removed from the National Youth League this time, and there is a high probability that he will miss the squad for the Myanmar Asian Youth Championship. Without this opportunity to shine, it may not be favored by domestic clubs, and it is impossible to reach a verbal agreement. There is no way out for export to domestic sales. Maybe it is an opportunity for Wei Xiaohao. I vaguely remember the evaluation of Wei Xiaohao by the media in later generations. Regardless of personality and temper, personal ability is top in the country. He is the only player in the national football team who dares to break through. In short, no matter who the opponent is, I will drive the ball towards you. Who else's momentum is really admirable. After hanging up the phone, Martin sent Wei Xiaohao a WeChat message: "Brother, train hard at Boa Vista, let's do something big together in Europe, face the FA, let them know what they lost." End of this chapter. Chapter 6 Vitalia Park Training Base. At the beginning of the millennium, Benfica's youth training facilities were outdated, and the results of youth training were lackluster. Portuguese sports were quite satisfactory, and Porto was recognized as the best football youth training base in Portugal. It was not until Ronaldo, Quaresma, Nani and other outstanding players were born that Sporting Lisbon rose strongly and became the new leader of the Portuguese youth academy. The traditional tycoon Benfica realized that it should update the youth training base, and opened youth training schools in Lisbon and Madeira Islands, and formulated important development goals centered on training young players. After several years of hard work and courage, it is already keeping pace with Portuguese sports. Coupled with proper positioning and training regardless of the country, it finally caught up and became Portugal's new best youth training team. The former leader of the youth academy dropped to third, and no one would be comfortable. Porto up and down, want to revive the past. Increase investment in youth training, hire more professional youth training coaches, and encourage talented players to skip grades. When the youth training has not yet reaped the results, the operation of the club is maintained by an intermediary. The black shop in Europe has become famous all over the world. However, their core is still youth training. Martin came to the Vitalia Park training base, greeted Uncle Mendes at the door familiarly, and went straight to the U17 youth team locker room. Vitalia Park training base is the youth training base in Porto, and also one of the most advanced youth training bases in Portugal and Europe. It has beautiful scenery, singing birds and flowers, complete supporting facilities, and the most scientific training model. The success rate is also among the top 10 in European youth training camps all year round. "I'm going, Joao, why are you here?" Martin, who came to the locker room, was surprised to see a familiar skinny guy. "Hey, the coach said I was invincible in U15, let me come to U17 to harm you, how about it, cool?" Felix raised his head and was very proud. "By the way, I heard that you didn't become a Dragon Kingdom citizen. Did you go back to participate in the Asian Youth Championship training camp? Why did you come back?" "Strength does not allow my existence, so I came back." Martin waved his hand in front of the locker, put on his training shirt by himself, and prepared for the next training. "Is Dragon Country football that strong now? Although you still have one more season to find your own way out, it doesn't mean that you don't have a place in Dragon Country U19, right? When you went back, you seemed to say that you were a Dragon Country youth player." The player turned out to be bragging. Felix chuckled. Martin gave a middle finger. "Can you stop talking so straight? It's easy to have no friends." Immediately, he remembered something, and looked at Felix regretfully. "If I remember correctly, the Portuguese genius Felix, who is Ronaldo's successor, will be eliminated by the youth academy in the near future because of his thin body. He once lost confidence, but fortunately he joined the Benfica youth training under the encouragement of his father, and grew up very fast, kept skipping grades, and finally transferred to Atletico Madrid with a record-setting worth, becoming the player with the highest transfer fee in Portugal. It was also at Atletico Madrid that Felix's talent, which had a high starting point, was gradually smoothed out. Simeone's tactics pay attention to physical confrontation and high-position pressing, which is precisely Felix's shortcoming. Felix also gave Martin a middle finger, see how I'll make you go numb later. Hey, it's not certain who abuses whom. Martin is confident. Up to 95 plus defensive attributes, can you, a child under the age of 15, be able to play? He. U17 head coach Simon was not surprised to see Martin on the training ground, but just shook his head, feeling a little regretful. The youth training academy encourages grade skipping, and Martin was once the hopeful star of the youth training academy. Came to U17 3 years ago. But the progress in the past 2 years cannot be said to be non-existent, it can only be said to be insignificant. Ruben Neves, who skipped another level in the same period, has been appreciated by the first-team coach Lopetegui and went directly to the first team to participate in the preparations for the 2014-2015 season. There is really no way to compare people. Not long ago, there was a show operation that actively applied for naturalization of the Dragon Kingdom. Thinking of this, he couldn't help sighing again. In his view, naturalization in Longua is a manifestation of self-renunciation. After all, the current Long Chow is notoriously rich and stupid, and is willing to spend huge sums of money for foreign players. Both Gilardino and Diamanti, who are almost unable to get along in Serie A, can both get an annual salary of 400 million euros after tax. Tut tut. What he didn't expect was that after returning from Longua, Martin seemed to be enlightened, and his performance was unbelievable. In training. Oh my God. Felix was easily intercepted by Martin again, and he put his head in his hands and exclaimed, how did you know I would break through here? Martin kicked the football on Felix's feet to Felix, and said calmly, isn't it normal for me to see through your unrefined dribbling skills? As he spoke, he shrugged his shoulders and showed a playful smile. I don't believe it. It must be a coincidence, come again. Felix stepped back a few meters on the football, raised his head but frowned, and said solemnly, I'm coming. Boy, come on. Martin lowered his body's center of gravity, looking prepared. Felix is small, explosive and fast, but he does not rely on speed to overwhelm his opponent, but to match the rhythm of the body's center of gravity. Even ordinary professional players may be tempted, but Martin will not. One-on-one defensive offensive players, without encroaching on their own defense, will also increase the defensive success rate by an additional 50%. Then the probability is high. Felix couldn't even think of it. Martin, who was training with him, opened an invincible cheat. In the middle of fighting and retreating, he stretched out his foot lightly, and smashed the ball out of the sideline before Felix dialed the ball to accelerate. If it weren't for Felix's weak heart, Martin would have planned to directly control the ball at his feet. I don't believe it, I want to continue. Felix's idol is Ronaldo, and he also learned the spirit of never admitting defeat from Ronaldo. Since you are looking for abuse, then I will fulfill you. With an additional 50% defensive success rate, it is destined that Felix's efforts will become useless. The Porto U17 youth team who were training around them also stopped curiously, and all of them looked at Martin as if they were looking at monsters. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Is this still the former star of hope who is about to be dismissed? Woo-woo. After completing a clean defense against Felix, the audience will also let out a burst of exclamation tacitly. The talented goalkeeper Diogo Costa murmured, I feel that Martin is back, the former favorite of heaven has awakened. The sound was not loud, but all the nearby team members heard it, and it also resonated. Head coach Simon saw Martin's performance in his eyes, and he nodded in satisfaction, not rushing to a conclusion. Half an hour later, it was a regular group match. The game is divided into 3 quarters, each lasting 10 minutes, and the coaching staff assesses the player's status. It has been less than half a month since the start of the 2014-2015 Portuguese U17 Youth League. The most direct way to assess the success of a youth training coach is the performance of the team in the age group he leads. Normal training followed, and Martin's performance was exceptionally eye-catching. The defense is one man's pass, and the transition from defense to offense can also run to the frontcourt in time to support the offense, enriching the team's offensive routines. It is simply taking care of the entire right road. The entire coaching staff was very surprised. This, or the Martin who is most likely to be eliminated from the youth academy? Simon looked at Martin with a relaxed face, frowning. But he didn't fully agree, not because Martin's nationality was changed from Portugal to Dragon, but because the player's state has fluctuated. Perhaps, this is a good time. Observe and observe more. Better to wait until the traditional Triwizard tournament before the U17 Youth Championship begins. At that time, it is most suitable to test the true level of a player. The Triwizard tournament, also known as the Hope Cup. It is led by the Youth Training Department of the Portuguese Football Association, and the youth training teams of the three age groups of Sporting Lisbon, Benfica and Porto, which are the ceiling of the Portuguese youth training, will participate. That is U17, U19 and U23. The start time is about half a month before the start of the Youth League. The training location is the Portuguese national training base, and the competition venue is the community natural grass field next to it. 20142015U17815U1782. At the end of the training match, many players surrounded Martin, who played exceptionally well, full of curiosity. Facing the questions from his teammates, Martin, whose mental age is 30+, spoke without blushing and heartbeat, and just opened his mouth. I went back to the Dragon country, and in a dilapidated Taoist temple, I worshipped Sanqing devoutly and received a special holy baptism. When I woke up, I found that my mind became extraordinarily clear, and my hands and feet became more flexible. The defender's understanding is particularly deep, and, the speed seems to be much faster. I also want to go to Dragon country to be baptized. Midfielder Rui Pires looked serious. Dear brother Rui, I'm really sorry. Martin spread his hands, apologetic, that I used up the last spot. Huh. There won't be any more in the future? Asked the less talented defender Ricardo Perez. Well, I'm not sure. In the words of our Dragon Kingdom, it depends on fate. Just like me, when the opportunity meets, there will be a chance to transform. Martin is serious nonsense, the problem is that this group of players under the age of 17 believe it. The head coach Simon, who pretended to be tidying up the tactical board, pricked up his ears to eavesdrop, thoughtful. He had long heard that the sleeping Oriental dragon was very mysterious. Seeing Martin, who had undergone tremendous changes within a week after returning to China, he began to agree in his heart that this country indeed had the mysterious power to change people's lives. The brain can't help thinking, I will go to Longwa when I am on vacation, maybe. I'm the next Jose Mourinho. End of this chapter. Chapter 7 Martin's adoptive parents. The Porto Youth Training Base does not count investment in all echelons, and the performance of food, clothing, housing and transportation is particularly obvious. The chefs in the player restaurant of the youth training base must have the highest nutritionist license. Not to mention the freshest food, each player's meal is prepared by a nutritionist according to each player's recent physical needs. But the taste of a nutritious meal, hee hee. Before crossing, Martin was already used to heavy oil and spicy food, the kind that he likes all kinds of spicy food. When I went to Longwa before, I also ate a fake nutritious meal full of color, flavor, and taste, but now I switched to a real nutritious meal with a bland taste, which is somewhat difficult to swallow. The fruit salad and fresh juice are okay, but the steamed chicken breast, pure steak and blanched broccoli are a bit difficult to eat. Is it that bad? Felix said playfully. Then you finish eating right away, right away. Wait. Felix took out a bottle of seasoning from his satchel and sprinkled it on the food. Oh, it's a bottle of pepper. Good guy. Martin snatched the pepper from Felix's hand and sprinkled it on the chicken breast, steak and broccoli as if it was free. Added some pepper, the taste is finally better. Took less than 10 minutes to scrape through a pile of food. Eat and drink enough, followed by a scientific lunch break. The afternoon training time is from 2:30 to, frowny face. After an hour and a half of training, Martin took the initiative to stay on the training ground after waving goodbye to his teammates. There are two reasons. One is to understand through the system wizard that training for a certain attribute in the real world can also increase the value. To double the effect, you can also purchase efficiency packs through the system store. The young man is not deceived. The price of twice the efficiency is 100 green coins, the quadruple efficiency is 1000 green coins, and the 8 times efficiency is 10,000 green coins. The effect lasts for 1 week, but does not stack. The slight disadvantage is that the training efficiency package for each attribute only takes effect for 2 hours a day in the real world and the system training ground. 4 hours in total. However, if you want to improve efficiency through special training for attributes, you must purchase the corresponding course in the system mall, otherwise it will not take effect. I have to say that the system guide is still very talented in sales. It can make people pay without anyone noticing. Martin only had 1000 green coins and bought a double efficiency package. You have to set aside Levian coins to buy courses. After taking a look at the course, Martin called him a good guy. 200% efficiency is only sold for 100 Levian coins, and the course is actually sold for 500 Levian coins. Fortunately, the course is permanent and valid after purchase. In addition, there are achievement rewards for continuous additional training, and you can get freely allocated attribute points. If you practice continuously for 1 week and no less than 1 hour a day, you can get 1 point of free distribution attribute. If you practice for at least 1 hour a day for a month, you can receive 5 points of free distribution attributes. If you practice 1 consecutive season, calculated from the season training camp to the day before the last official game of the season, you can receive 60 points of free distribution attributes for no less than 1 hour per day. Match days are not counted. After completing the additional training for the whole season, there will be an additional talent/skill lottery opportunity. It's a pity that the reward for additional training for 1 week and 1 month is once every season, otherwise you can get more attribute point rewards. Consume 500 Levian coins to buy Chuanzhong course, and consume 100 Levian coins to buy 200% efficiency package. Martin immediately ran to the right side of the court, set up footballs 1 by 1, and started sweating cross-training. This scene happened to be seen by U17 head coach Simon and youth training director Paul Noga, who were talking in the office. The two looked at each other, and each saw a trace of relief in each other's eyes. Unexpectedly, a few minutes later, a thin figure also came to the training ground. Martin, who was concentrating on extra training, saw his teammates coming to the training ground from the corner of his eye. He turned his head and asked curiously, "Joao, don't you want to go home? I did come to U15 when I was invincible at U17. Today I saw that you have become stronger. To be honest, I feel pressure, so I don't want to see you secretly continue to become stronger." Felix raised his head, and his flowing long hair parted naturally. "Of course, you can also understand that I am here to practice with you. I see that you are always running to pick up the ball. The passing points for cross-practice are single and lack of support. Variety." Martin took a deep look at Felix, but he didn't tell the truth. He nodded and said with a smile, "Okay, partner, you said it. Hey, I, Joao, have always said what I said, and I will do what I say, but..." Speaking of this, Felix changed the subject. "But can you have at least half an hour of one-on-one offensive and defensive training with me later? The pain of personal training is that it is boring and tedious, and it is easy and trouble-free to have someone to train with. At least, there is no need to pick up the footballs 1 by 1 after kicking a round of crosses." The system guide also mentioned that you can only practice extra training, and there are no specific requirements. No problem. Ding. The host has completed 2 hours of Chuanzhong targeted training. It is time for the 200% efficiency increase in the real world today, and the training effect has returned to the default value. Hearing the system prompt, Martin looked up at the progress that only he could see. 24%. It means that the training progress for the attribute reaches 24%, and when the progress reaches 100%, the cross attribute will automatically increase by 1 point. It is worth mentioning that after the value rises to 70 points, the effect will be reduced by 50%, and when it reaches 80, it will be reduced by 50%. It is also true that the free distribution of attribute points is particularly important. Therefore, completing main missions, side missions, achievements, and obtaining attribute points has become the focus of becoming stronger, so as not to indulge in training and miss the main task. In addition to attribute point rewards for completing the above content, there are also rewards for greatly improving abilities such as talents and skills. Martin didn't feel tired at all after more than 2 hours of extra training, but Felix was so tired that he collapsed directly on the grass, breathing heavily, and his chest heaved violently. Could tell that he was really tired. He smiled and picked up the footballs scattered on the field one by one, put them neatly in the four-wheeled football storage cart, and handed them over to the equipment manager. "Martin, thank you." Sousa smiled and patted Martin on the shoulder. "Additional training requires perseverance. Your year-end assessment is coming soon. I hope you can graduate smoothly and enter the U19 youth team. Thank you for your blessings." The two chatted awkwardly, and Martin found a reason to drag Felix back to the locker room, each throwing sweaty jerseys and equipment into the large clothes basket at the door. He took a shower, changed into his own clothes, and waved goodbye to Felix at the gate of the training base with his large travel bag. They go back to their homes to find their mothers. When I got home, it was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. Miguel Mario was sitting on the sofa watching TV with his legs crossed, and turned his head when he heard the sound of the door opening. Seeing that it was Martin who came back, he snorted softly and looked at the soap opera on TV again. His left hand patted his wife Clara Anna, who was already asleep on the shoulder, and said in a low voice, "The child is back, go and heat up dinner." Anna stood up subconsciously when she heard the words, got up and ran to the door excitedly, and gave Martin a big hug. "My child, you are finally back. Mom misses you so much. Did you feel wronged in Longwa?" "No." Martin shook his head and laughed. "Then sit down first and watch TV with your dad, and I'll heat up dinner." "It is good." The two sat on the sofa separately, and neither of them spoke. In fact, Martin felt very guilty. His adoptive father and adoptive mother adopted his predecessor in Longwa 16 years ago, treating him as his own, and giving him whatever he wanted. He never concealed his life experience, and even supported going back to Long Country to find his biological parents after he became an adult. The former fell in love with football under the influence of the two. In order to better receive football training, the couple also sent him to the Porto Youth Academy through their relationship. Fortunately, the predecessor showed good football talent and gained a firm foothold in Porto's youth teams at all levels through hard work. Adoptive father Miguel Mario is Portuguese and adoptive mother Clara Ana is Argentinian. Martin naturally obtains dual citizenship of Portugal and Argentina. The couple are very affectionate, and they discussed it early. No matter which country Martin chooses to represent in the international A-level competition in the future, it will be fine. Unexpectedly, the adopted son gave up his Portuguese and Argentine citizenships without warning more than a month ago, and chose to renaturalize Longwa through naturalization. Clara Anna has no objections. She thinks that the child will eventually leave when he grows up. Besides, the Dragon Kingdom is still Martin's motherland. Miguel Mario was nearly sick with anger. Of course, he was only angry at the time, and after a few days he calmed down. He naturally accepted the reality. Because they taught Martin to be independent, self-reliant, confident, and determined since he was a child. Martin's choice is also in line with the educational philosophy. There is nothing wrong with taking back the nationality that originally belonged to you. But accepting reality is accepting reality, and Miguel Mario was angry that this kid didn't even ask a symbolic question. Could it be that he is the kind of rigid father who is stubborn and unable to communicate? Martin glanced at his adoptive father. His angry look was hilarious, his pouting mouth was similar to that of Lei Jinzi. He coughed lightly, suppressed a smile, took out a box from the large travel bag he brought back, and handed it to Miguel Mario. "This is the favorite imperial roast duck that I specially brought you in imperial capital, Quanjude. Have you been hungry for several years?" "Uh-huh." Miguel Mario snorted arrogantly, and he was refreshed by the unique smell of roast duck emanating from the gift box. The already hungry stomach let out a cuckoo sound, and from the corner of the eye, Martin almost failed to suppress his smile. Quickly pinched the thigh meat hard before calming down, with a straight face. Don't eat. That's a pity. Since you don't want to eat it, I'll give it to Uncle John. He called me and asked me to remember to bring a copy back." Martin pretended to be very disappointed, sighed, and stood up. "Stinky boy, did you do it on purpose?" "Hee hee." Martin sat back on the sofa and put his right hand on Miguel Mario's shoulder. "Don't be angry, it's a big deal that I will bring you Quanjude's imperial roast duck every time you come back from Longwa, by the way. I also asked my friend, Dao Bao. I bought a lot of authentic hot pot base ingredients. As he said that, he went to get the Chongqing hot pot base from the compartment of the travel bag, and suddenly remembered that the express package had not been opened in time, so he quietly tore it open, and put the package on the coffee table. "How is it, my Mr. Miguel?" Miguel Mario glanced at the appetizing hot pot package and swallowed. "These two are just trying to get rid of me." "That's more than that. When I have time, I will make you spicy crayfish, pickled fish, and dried bullfrog." Every time Martin said the name of a heavy-flavored dish in Longwa, Miguel Mario's eyes flickered a bit more. Obviously, he was already imagining that he was tasting the delicious food that Martin said. "I also want to eat beer duck, golden drunk chicken, and hot and sour chicken. All arrangements." In Martin's words, it is to promise first, and whether to honor it in the future depends on the situation. Clara Anna, who was cooking dinner in the open kitchen, smiled happily as she listened to the conversation in the living room. The father and son finally returned to their usual warm scene. End of this chapter. Chapter 8 Triwizard Tournament, Side Quests. "Pius, I'm a little tired, let's go back to my room first." After finishing the dinner carefully cooked by his adoptive mother Clara Anna, Martin burped, got up, patted his belly, said something, then turned and went back to the room. "Immediately after taking a shower, I feel refreshed. Lock the door and enter the system. He is going to get stronger." Special attribute training is divided into the real world and the system training field, each with 2 hours a day to improve efficiency by 200%. Now, it's time to start the cross training in the system training ground. The progress in the previous pass has reached 24%, and the system training ground can reach about 200% with 100% efficiency and a little 50% initial efficiency for 2 hours. It is equivalent to improving the cross attribute a little in 2 days. If you give up more, in addition to eating and sleeping, you will practice more, and your progress will be faster. However, there is no need for that. If you have a dream, you have to have a life. Anyway, with the system in place, I am not afraid of not becoming stronger. He has already confirmed with the system guide that the progress reaches 100%, and the automatic increase of 1 point of crossing attributes will not double the experience of game upgrades in the follow-up. According to the calculation of one attribute in 2 days, if you persevere in boring targeted training, you can increase the threshold of 20 for the targeted attribute in about 70 days. It is worth mentioning that for each attribute reaching 70, if you want to increase the value of the attribute through training, the difficulty factor will increase a lot. The initial training improvement progress has dropped from the initial 100% to 50%, not to mention, the efficiency package cannot be used yet. Rough calculation, if you want to go from 70 to 80, you need about 80 days of additional training time. Almost 3 months. I really didn't know, I was taken aback. If you practice day and night, the time can be shortened a lot. Again, no need. According to the calculation of the improvement without bottleneck, the time cost is indeed increased a lot. But for the vast majority of football players in the world, it may take many years of perseverance to complete the 20-point attribute improvement of personal data attributes, and it is even difficult to make progress through the efforts of the entire career. Martin was only 3 months away from turning 18. The last thing you need is time. It takes about 60 days for a 80 attribute to be raised to 100, and nearly 4 attributes can be raised to excellent in a year. Of course, this is also the ideal state. After all, his current attribute value can only be seen as a right-back attribute, and most of the others are below 60. It will take a lot of time to increase to 80. Under the background that it takes a lot of time to improve abilities, completing tasks and achievements to obtain a large number of attribute point rewards, talents, skills and other rewards becomes the key to shortening the time to become stronger. Day after day training is very boring. The 2-hour 200% efficiency of the system training ground ended. Martin did not rest, but continued to train under the influence of obsessive-compulsive disorder until the progress reached 50%. After exiting the system, the time has not yet reached 10 o'clock in the evening local time in Portugal. The reason why the time is still less than 10 o'clock is because the time of the system training ground is 2:1 with the real world. In other words, after spending 2 hours in the system training ground, only 1 hour actually passed in the real world. It was still early, he took out his mobile phone from the bedside table, opened his scarf habitually, and ate his own melon while watching the latest news. Except for a few cool-headed netizens who insisted on their own opinions, most of them were brought into the rhythm, so his reputation in the Longwa football circle was minimized. He smiled, and it took only 3 short days from the hope of Longwa football to almost everyone shouting. In addition, the official social accounts of the Longchao and Longjia teams in Longwa in China coincided with each other, conforming to the Football Association, implicitly expressing that the selection of players prioritizes personal character and refuses young players who return to China to sign big contracts in various ways. Such an obvious statement is short of writing his ID number on it. There was no plan to export to domestic sales, so I didn't care at all. Going to Wei Xiaohao's personal certification scarf, it was a miserly spray. Open the scarf that speaks out for oneself, and at least, % of the nearly tens of thousands of comments are abusive. The 10 days passed quickly. Apart from spending half a day entertaining Wei Xiaohao on the 3rd day after returning to Portugal, Martin spent the rest of the time training hard at the training base. The director of youth training, Paul Noga, has seen Martin's progress. If he hadn't taken into account that the Triwizard tournament was coming soon, he had already promoted Martin to the U19 youth team. If they are placed in the youth training of Benfica or Portuguese sports, they will naturally be promoted at the first time and increase training efforts. It's just that the current Porto Youth Academy has lost its former glory. It has been reduced from the best youth academy club in Portugal at the beginning of the millennium to the current youngest. It is a bit embarrassing to face. In the past 8 consecutive years of the Triwizard tournament, the champions of the 3 age groups have been held by Sporting Portugal and Benfica in turn. Martin, who was about to be dissuaded, suddenly grew up, showing signs of fulfilling his talent back then. Paul Noga wants to use Martin's ability to help the U17 youth team to see if he can win a U17 championship. Quench your thirst first. The gap between the U19 youth team and the U23 youth team is too large, and there is no chance at all. The U17s are still young, and the gap is not very obvious. Of course, the most important thing is that both Benfica U17 and Sporting Portugal U17 have a few monsters. Benfica U17 youth team has Renato Santos, Gedson Fernandes, Hoda, non-Liverpool striker, Diogo Mendes, Florentino Luis, Ruben Dias. Sporting U17 also has striker Rafael Leo, midfielders Andre Franco and Daniel Braganza, defenders João Orihuela and Thierry Correa. Felix, who has just been promoted from U15 to U17, is talented, but he is thin and afraid of physical contact, so his performance is easily targeted and restricted. Martin has been persistent in the past 10 days, crossing training in the real world and the system training ground every day. After the 200% efficiency expired, it was renewed for another week. In 10 days, the cross attribute was increased by 5 points, and it was only a short distance away from increasing the attribute by 6 points. In addition, additional practice for a week will also give you 1 point of free distribution attribute. But he didn't add it in biography, but thought about it. If the progress reaches 80 through training, it will drop a lot, and it is too wasteful to use it in the middle and early stages. It would be better to use the freely allocated attribute points for attributes that are difficult to improve in a short time or leave them for later use. Looking at the entire attribute, Martin still thinks it should be used as one of the 2 speeds. According to the attribute explanation of the attribute panel, speed is a measure of personal maximum speed. The higher the value, the faster the speed. Acceleration is the time consumed from nothing to something, and the higher the value, the less time it takes to start to the highest speed, that is, the stronger the explosive power. In 2 speeds, Martin chose to add attribute points to acceleration. Even if the speed 82 is placed in U19, it is also intended to be a burst, to enhance explosive power, and to be able to shoot faster between lightning and flint. Football games are changing rapidly, and the outcome of the game is often determined by being a little faster than the opponent. Add attribute points to acceleration, and the Triwizard tournament of the 3 age groups will have the first team assistants of their respective teams and scouts from other teams to watch on the spot. Once he performs well, it is possible to get the attention of Lopetegui and other scouts. Enter the first team earlier and complete the main task. The task requirements of the main task did not say that they must enter the Porto first team. According to his guess, the reward rate of the reward box is not only related to entering the first team earlier, but also has a certain relationship with the level of the team. In other words, to get the best rewards, 2 requirements must be met. The first is that the team that enters the first team must be strong enough, and the second is that the time to enter the first team is the shortest. His defense is sharp, and he can only be said to have done his job. If you want to be favored by the first-team manager, you have to be good enough in attracting attention. For example, the ability to participate in offense is brilliant enough. 3-player competition, here I come. With enough vision, Martin followed the U17 youth team on the bus from Porto to Lisbon. Just then, the system beep sounded. Ding! Host, you have a task to claim, please pay attention. Martin got on the bus and found a reason to dismiss Felix, closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, but actually entered the system to check the tasks. Submission, best player. Task requirement, get the best player in the tournament. Task reward, 10 free assignment attribute points. The task rewards can be said to be relatively stingy, only 10 freely allocated attribute points. System wizard. But after thinking about it, it is not difficult for him to show the best performance in the 2 U17 games with his current ability. Invincible in defense, with excellent round-trip running ability and double speed, 66 crosses, in the U17 age group, it can be said that he is a master. Coach Simon mentioned that there are not many players who need to worry about it. The Portuguese Sports U17 youth team only needs special care for top winger Rafael Leo, midfielder Miguel Luis, and Daniel Braganza. The Benfica U17 youth team needs more attention, such as winger Gedson Fernandes, central midfielder Renato Sanchez, Ronaldo Vieira, and Diogo Mendes. In addition, there is the talented central defender Ruben Dias. In Martin's memory, only Leo and Ruben Dias were the only players in the U17 youth teams of the 2 youth training teams who finally kicked out their worth. But 15-year-old Leo and 17-year-old Ruben Dias are still young. To sum up, it is not too difficult for Martin to get the best player. 10 points of free distribution of attributes, no different from a pie in the sky. Portugal's national football training base is located in a small town near Lisbon. Due to the outdated facilities, the Portuguese Football Association plans to build a new national training base in Oeiras next to it. According to media reports, it will be the new headquarters of the Portuguese Football Association, with 3 standard natural grass professional football fields, a goalkeeper training ground, a gymnasium and a health center. It is expected to be completed in 2016. Martin has been to this old training base many times, 2 times in the Triwizard tournament, and the rest as a player selected for the Portuguese U15 and U17 national youth. For the venue of the training base, it can be said that I want to be familiar with it. The facilities are still outdated, but everything that should be there is available. The professional football training field alone costs 4 blocks. Both the Sporting Lisbon and Benfica training bases are in Lisbon, not far from the national training base. The 2 clubs are the same as before, and players of all 3 age groups take the bus on the day of the game. This is an exchange game, there is no big interest involved, and there is no need to adapt to the venue in advance. It is equivalent to saying that the youth teams of the 3 age groups in the Porto Youth Academy can exclusively enjoy the Portuguese national training base. Felix, the future Portuguese goalkeeper Diogo Costa and Dalit just came from U15 to U17, so it is the first time they have come to the national training base to prepare for the Triwizard tournament, and they are all very excited. The time-traveling Martin has mastered the memories of his predecessor, and has become a tour guide when he has nothing to do. Introduce the various facilities of the training base to the little fans, as well as the interesting things that happened in the base in the past. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 U17 Captain, Lightning Assist. The Youth Training Department of the Portuguese Football Association fully takes into account the particularity of the competition between the 3 teams. Porto is more than 300 kilometers away from Lisbon, and the schedule is given priority to Porto. After 2 games, Porto's 3 age groups will return. The first to start is the U17 age group, the time is tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the opponent is the Portuguese U17 youth team. U19 will play at 23 frowny-face p.m., and U will play at frowny-face p.m. The Porto youth team of 3 age groups came to the national football training base without neglecting training. After an hour of free activities, they came to the training ground respectively for the last practice before the game. Considering that there will be a high-level competition on the second day, the training content arranged by the coach is of no intensity at all. Martin is exactly the same as in the past, carrying out persistent additional training. Congratulations to the host for completing the 100% progress of the special training of transfer. The transfer will automatically +1, and the current value is 67. With a system notification beeping, the training progress visible only to Martin changed from 99% to 100%. When Martin finished the extra training, the head coach Simon came over. "Martin, you are the captain for tomorrow's game." "Okay." Simon patted Martin on the shoulder and encouraged, "The next 2 games will be your swan song in U17. Don't regret it. You are also very good at leadership. I believe you will be a qualified captain. I will never betray your trust," Martin said solemnly. The coaches of the Porto U19 youth team and U23 youth team have heard Martin's gossip recently, saying that the former genius worshipped Sanching in the Taoist temple of Longwa, received a holy baptism, and the whole person changed drastically. Not to mention fulfilling his talents, he has also become extraordinarily diligent. Looking at the sweaty figure, Joao Bran, head coach of the U19 youth team, was smiling, but felt a little disappointed. According to the club's youth training rules, teams with higher levels have higher recruitment authority. In other words, the head coach of the U23 youth team took a fancy to Martin, so he could only regretfully miss the training opportunity. The U23 coach Ricardo Perez also has the same idea. If the B team coach Castro takes a fancy to it. Thinking of this, Ricardo Perez smiled. Martin was recommended to the U19 youth team by the youth training director Paul Noga. How could he be valued by the higher B team Castro? In other words, he may not be able to fancy Martin. Promotion to the B team is even more impossible. First team. Not every player is as lucky as Ruben Neves. At 17 o'clock the next morning, the Porto U17 youth team and the Sporting Portugal youth team followed their physical coaches and came to the venue to warm up. Martin couldn't help looking at Leo, who will have great achievements in the future. Compared with the strong physique of later generations, Leo now looks very thin, giving people a sense of malnutrition. If you underestimate Leo, you will definitely suffer a big loss. Fast speed is his personal talent, and good physical coordination and flexibility are the innate strengths of black people. With good foot skills, the 15-year-old Leo already has a very good ability to break through barriers alone. There are also relatively outstanding shooting skills in front of goal, and the ability to calmly grasp opportunities. Outstanding talent has already shown its sharpness in the Portuguese youth training circle. Porto U17 head coach Simon told him before the game that defending Leo is the first choice, followed by restricting the performance of Miguel Luis and Daniel Braganza. After all, Leo's personal dribbling and scoring ability is also expected to explode in the U17 age group. Milan's thigh in the future, my brother is going to abuse you. The game that is about to start will inevitably be against Leo, 1 attack and 1 defense, and there will always be a difference, and I have stronger expectations in my heart. 3 and 10 minutes passed quickly, and the 2 U17 players who finished warming up went to their respective coaches' benches on the sidelines. The title of the competition is the Tri-Wizard Tournament, but it is actually no different from an ordinary warm-up match. Both U17 youth teams made pre-match tactical deployments on the sidelines. U17 U15 U17 U172. Ding. Black hair, yellow skin, Asian players. Captain. Leo's dignified expression disappeared, replaced by joking and contempt. Are there any good players in Asia? He thought for a while, and a strong anger suddenly gushed out of his heart. That disgusting country that relies on referees to enter the World Cup semi-finals. And that despicable country that made historical mistakes but refused to admit it? Or the country known as the football desert? The corners of the mouth were raised, revealing a playful smile. No matter which country the player is from, he must finish the abuse later. Leo made up his mind. In a sense, the Tri-Wizard Tournament is the pinnacle matchup of the Portuguese youth training, so many reporters and scouts flooded into the professional football field in the community hosting the event. As a feast for the Portuguese youth training, there are also the relatives and friends of the participating players, die-hard fans, neutral fans who join in the fun, and agents who rely on outstanding players for food. However, the impact of the event is limited, and the number of spectators pouring into the professional football stadium in the community is limited. There are still more than half of the seats with a capacity of spectators. Leo's center of gravity was slightly to the right, and then spiked the ball in the opposite direction to accelerate, obviously trying to use the change of rhythm and impressive speed to complete the breakthrough. Martin, who has lowered his center of gravity and fought and retreated, sees through everything, and Leo's feints and smashes are like slow motion that has been slowed down many times. His left foot supports his body, and his right foot sticks out like a ghost to intercept the running route of the football. O meu Deus! After finishing the action, Leo's pupils shrank slightly, his face full of disbelief. There is only one thought in his mind: how did he see it? It was too late to change the trick, and the body was affected by inertia, so he could only watch Martin block the ball and quickly handed the ball to central midfielder Rui Pires. After completing the pass, Martin speeded up along the right sideline, and at the same time raised his right hand to signal his teammates to pass the ball. Rui Pires stopped and took a trip, dodged a Portuguese Sporting U17 player André Franco's tackle, and then sent a diagonal pass to the front right with a little advance. Sporting Lisbon youth teams at all levels focus on cultivating wide players, supplemented by teaching students in accordance with their aptitude, and the same is true for U17. The offense hits the left, and the overall formation is relatively forward. Martin steals the ball and counterattacks with a strong sense of participating in the offense. On the other hand, the opposing left-back Repchuk reacts half a time, and it is too late to turn around. It was also too late for Sporting Portugal U17's left midfielder André Franco to chase back, and the left centre-back Abdul Conti chose to stand still. Mati Quetta, who is at the forefront of the striker, is very alert, and quickly crosses the space between the two central defenders from the centre, so that Conti dare not make up too much to the left. Martin's dribbling ability is very poor, and it is a bit embarrassing for him to use his skills to surpass others. Before the game, the head coach Simon talked about the 16-year-old left-footed central defender's speed is too fast, but there is still a certain gap between fast and fast. Reaching 80+ in two speeds gave him enough confidence. Martin skimmed across the center line at high speed close to the right sideline, saw the running route of the football, and the arch of his right foot directly pushed the forward-rolling football forward for more than 10 meters. The strong and powerful legs swing alternately quickly, and the speed is then increased to the extreme. The corner of Conti's mouth twitched slightly when he saw Martin using the long-distance waving ball across the long distance. "How the hell do you think you're Gareth Bale?" The moment a slightly ironic idea just popped into my mind, I was stunned. The two originally kept a safe enough distance, but they didn't know that the other party came to them in the blink of an eye. Less than 5 meters. The distance between each other is still shortening at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's so fucking fast. Not only Conti felt that Martin was fast, but the Sporting Portugal U17 coaching staff, substitute players, and spectators all clearly saw Porto U17's number 2 player wearing a blue and white striped shirt as fast as the wind, and they were all amazed. Porto U17 all know that Martin is fast, and they are full of expectations when they see the large space behind Conti. Conti realized that Martin was much faster than himself, and his defensive choice changed from turning around to clear the siege to approaching. To put it bluntly, it was for fouling. As one of only 2 defenders along the entire backline, it is his duty to keep people or footballs in place. Football has traveled far, so there are only people left. The extreme speed is one of the most beautiful scenery in the football field. After Martin took the football out, the two became the ones who attracted the most attention in the audience. As a defender, Martin naturally knew why Conti approached. So, running at full speed, he consciously circled around to create a greater distance from the opponent. The speed of the two is not at the same level. Conti could have relied on the advantage of being closer to the bottom line to approach Martin, but now he can only use the second choice. Stretch people behind. It's too late, but Martin's reaction attribute of up to 80 plays a vital role at this time. He keenly noticed from the corner of his eye that Cantor was laying down the shovel on the side and behind him. His left foot supported his body and stood on tiptoe. Although the novice protection period has an invincible protective effect, but he doesn't want to miss the golden scoring opportunity at the kickoff stage. Pretty. Porto U17 coach Simon raised his arms and shouted. Another central defender, Guilherme Ramos, handed over the responsibility of defending Mati Quetta to the inward right-back Almeida, and accelerated to cover the defensive gap left by Conti's defensive recklessness. After landing, Martin staggered a little, but the effect was not great. He adjusted his body's center of gravity in 2 or 3 steps, and chased the football that had waited out ahead of time without reducing his speed. In this process, he still has enough time to observe the running position of his teammates and the position of the opponent. The opponent's right center-back defends the left center-back, and the right back makes up for the right center-back. At the far end of the front court attacking the left, a familiar small figure was running at full speed, very fast. The raised right hand was shaking constantly, for fear that he might not see the same thing. After a few strides, Martin stopped the football 2 meters in front of him, slowed down slightly, and looked down at the ball. At this time, he had already simulated an optimal passing route in his mind. The attribute, cross, has reached 67, allowing him to complete a predetermined pass in a relatively loose situation. About 25 meters away from the bottom line, Martin, who was attacking the right rib, swung his right foot and sent a strong cross to the ground. The football was running so fast that goalkeeper Maximiano didn't dare to attack. The football running fast on the ground crossed the penalty area diagonally from the right side of the attack, and then rolled over at 2 meters at high speed in front of Mati Quetta and Guilherme Ramos, who were pressing forward along the middle road at high speed, heading far and away. Nice pass. Several scouts hidden in the auditorium couldn't help but praise him. It was too late for Maximiano to move to the far end of the goal with the running of the football, because the running speed of the football is always faster than that of people. The unmarked Felix advanced to the end of Martin's pass. His right ankle was tight, and the arch of his foot pushed the ball lightly, and the football that changed its trajectory quickly rolled towards the lower right corner of the goal. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Leo feels an unprecedented sense of oppression. Porto U17 players gathered in the front court, excitedly celebrating the opening goal. The fans in the auditorium, the cheering group of relatives and friends also cheered for this wonderful cooperative goal and gave out bursts of applause. The scouts hidden among the fans took out notepads from their briefcases, and wrote on the page, Porto U17, number 2 is worthy of further investigation, strong defensive ability, fast speed, active participation in offense, a typical modern-type full-back. Miguel Mario, who drove more than 300 kilometers to Lisbon, hugged his wife excitedly, our son is too strong. There is a dragon on the right. He is going to the first team. The fans around are all diehard fans of Porto or relatives and friends of the U17 youth team. They saw Martin's wonderful performance on both ends of the offense and defense, and they all believe that if Martin's performance can be sustained and stable, it is entirely possible to succeed Ruben Neves. 2 U17 players who completed the triple jump. Simon, the head coach of the coach bench, suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and patted his palms expressionlessly, giving people the feeling that everything was under control. The Portuguese youth training circle is only that big, and the coaches are very familiar with each other. Sporting Portugal U17 head coach Molly Modi inadvertently saw Simon's expression, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Are you just putting it on? But as the head coach of the team, he has to do something. As a result, the players on the court became the target of catharsis. He, I, %* and UN at * UN. Leo, who was responsible for conceding the ball, frowned, put his hands on his hips, and looked at Martin, who was underestimated by him before the game, with his mouth pursed, feeling a little annoyed. If I had known that the opponent was so strong, I should have used all my strength. There was no special significance in the game, the goal celebration ended quickly, and the players of both sides returned to their respective halves one after another, preparing to kick off again. Sporting Portugal U17, who once again gained the kickoff advantage, lost the contempt before the kickoff and replaced it with a dignified game attitude. The offense is orderly, paving the way for the goal. Sporting Portugal's first team attack is mainly on the side. The tactical framework of the youth teams at all levels is based on the tactical play of the first team, and the tactics they formulate tend to be on the side. Leo is indeed responsible for losing the ball, but isn't it normal for offensive players to lose the ball? It's just unfortunate that his conceded goal ended up conceding the goal. Also, football is a team sport and conceding a goal is never anyone's fault. In the final analysis, a football game is a game of offense and defense. Defense restricts the opponent's attack, and offense penetrates the opponent's defense. If the offense is not penetrated, then the next wave of offense will continue until a goal is scored. Leo is a genius of the Portuguese sports youth training camp. He got the starting opportunity just after being promoted from U15 to U17, which is enough to see that his ability has been recognized by the coaching staff and the whole team. Sporting Portugal U17's restarted offense quickly came to the left side of the attack through successive passes. Through a series of passes and running positions, Leo, who received the ball, got the chance to single out Martin. The coaching staff of both sides, the bench, the fans in the auditorium, and the scouts were all attentive. Martin lowered his body weight and kept a small safe distance from Leo. Although the success rate of his one-on-one defense is very high, he knows that the defense cannot be arrogant, and must show respect. At least, let others lose very comfortably. Leo, who received the football, felt a certain amount of pressure and frowned. However, as the key training object of the Portuguese sports youth training, the most indispensable thing is self-confidence. Even if Martin had easily intercepted the ball and assisted his teammates to score. With the determination to avenge his shame, Leo planned to use his skillful feet, impressive speed and extraordinary flexibility to overwhelm Martin. This combination of breakthrough technologies has been tried and tested in past competitions and trainings. Unexpectedly, Martin didn't hesitate at all, and he was patient enough. The timing of the kick is calm, and one hit is sure to hit. Stretch out your foot and poke the football out of the sideline. Leo was not discouraged, but looked at Martin more and more solemnly. Offensive and defensive transition, Porto U17's quickly organized offense failed to threaten the opponent's goal. Sporting Portugal U17 switched from defense to offense, and the comeback offense quickly developed to the left. Facing the indifferent Martin again, Leo felt unprecedented pressure. He carefully controls the football with the inside of the instep of his right foot, and his brain is constantly running at high speed. How to break through the Orientals in front of me? You must know that from the time he came into contact with football until now, he didn't know what an opponent was at all, until he met Martin today. It was the first time the two had fought against each other, and the direct confrontation had just begun, but he could feel the pressure from the other side. Martin is an insurmountable chasm. 2 seconds later, Leo, who was determined to make a breakthrough, verified the truth with practice. He first used the continuous change of the center of gravity of the upper body to cooperate with the pedaling of both feet to feign a few shots, and then used the outer instep of his left foot to push the football in the opposite direction when Martin's center of gravity was retracted. As a result, Martin's defense is like the highest-end hunter. The intuitive feeling is that he was deceived by the continuous fake moves, but when you make the connecting moves, you will find that everything is his deliberately exposed flaws. The purpose is, to lure himself into the bait. Martin's right foot trailing behind stretched out like lightning, just blocking the path of Leo's ball. What made Leo doubt his life was that Martin dunked the ball in front of him while he was still on the ground, and quickly swept his right foot to Ricardinho in the middle. The conversion rate of Porto U17 from offense to defense is quite fast. Obviously, a series of tactical links have been formulated before the game. The pass and cut cooperated tacitly and were very threatening, but they failed to break through the goal guarded by Maximiano. Simon knew what the problem was, the lack of Martin's accuracy in the crucial final pass. What a pity, if only he had returned to Dragon Kingdom 2 years earlier. If Martin showed this kind of performance earlier, there is a high probability that U17 will produce 2 enchanting players with triple jump. So as the head coach, he also has great credit and the most reflected performance bonus. But it's not too late now. The first team's right back left Uruguay internationals Fusillit and Opal, leaving only Brazil international Danilo and Portugal fringe international Ricardo Pereira. Once there is an injury, according to the usual practice, it is the VIPs from the B team, U23 and U19. I hope this day will come sooner. Simon looked at Martin with anticipation in his eyes. Logically speaking, the overall strength of Portugal's Sporting U17 is much stronger than that of Porto's U17, but the latter is getting better and better under the leadership of Martin's excellent performance. The performance of the 5-5 ball competition is particularly obvious. Momentum is invisible and intangible, but it is very important to the trend of the game. Every time the Portuguese Sporting U17 offense comes to the left, it gives people a feeling that it is about to end. The Porto fans saw that the opponent's attack came to the right side of their defense, and they immediately knew that this wave of defense was stable. The game time of 10 minutes passed quickly, and the two sides had offense and defense with each other. In terms of threat, Porto U17 is naturally more threatening. In the 23rd minute, after receiving the ball, Felix fired an anti-aircraft gun with an inward cut and a long shot. Sporting Portugal U17 made a short-range goal kick from the backcourt to organize an attack from the backcourt. After continuous multiple passes, the football was given to Leo on the left. Leo, who has always been extremely confident in youth teams at all levels, is really hard to come up with the idea of challenging the limit when facing Martin. The football came to his feet, either it was cut off by Martin and counterattacked by Porto U17, or it was terminated by other teammates on the left. In short, Sporting Portugal U17's offensive left has been completely paralyzed. In order to ensure the offensive threat, he was forced to move to the right. However, Porto U17 has a reassuring Martin on the right side of the defense. Midfielders Paulo Estrella, Di Coutinho and Rui Pires can put enough energy on the defensive end to the center and left. Road. Defense is easier than offense, and with the number of people up, defense is handy and there is no fear at all. In a blink of an eye, the game came to 10 minutes, and the simple scoreboard displayed on the sidelines was still 1 o'clock. Porto U17 is in front and Sporting U17 is behind. During this period of time, Martin completed many important tasks of frontal defense and supplementary defense to ensure the absolute safety of the back line. Switching from defense to offense is of great help to the team's offense, opening up width and enriching offensive routines. The opening lightning assist was completed by Martin's direct participation, so that Porto's U17 offense developed to the right, which caused a burst of tension in the Portuguese U17 defense on the left. Everyone including Leo had to participate in the defense to ensure the stability of the defense. Martin moved forward to cooperate with the overall offense, and the defensive focus of Sporting Portugal U17 was unnaturally inclined to the left. In this way, Porto's U17 offense has more room for change. Compared with the Portuguese Sports U17 who walk on one leg, the Porto U17 who walks on 2 legs is more threatening in offense. As the main left winger, Felix began to gain possession of the ball more often. His excellent foot skills and explosive power allowed him to complete several inside cut shots. The tactical routine was played out, but unfortunately it failed to be converted into a goal. End of this chapter. Chapter 11 Mafe connects again, recommended ticket. Porto U17's rich tactical routines were fully displayed under Martin's excellent performance. The fly in the ointment is that attacking to the left does create a threat. The problem is that the player who completed the last kick has poor shooting skills and fails to convert opportunities into goals. Coach Simon sighed, it would be great if there was a striker whose shooting skills could reach André Silva of the B team. Before the end of the first half, the score could be extended to at least 2 goals. There was not much time left in the first half, and the offensive and defensive transitions of both sides slowed down consciously. There are 4 time periods in any game that are most prone to conceding goals, that is, the beginning of the first half, the end of the first half, the beginning of the second half, and the end of the whole time. Porto U17's goal appeared at the beginning of the first half, which was an indirect reminder to both sides. In order to avoid losing the ball in the final stage of the first half, the side holding the ball has a stable rhythm, mainly lateral and return passes. Although it is said that the bigger the storm, the more expensive the fish, and risky passing has the probability of creating absolute opportunities, but there are also great hidden dangers. Beep. After the symbolic 1-minute stoppage time, the referee blew his whistle to signal the end of the first half. The leading Porto U17 players looked very happy and smiling. Martin was the best player throughout the first half, and he also became the first choice for his teammates to pull homework. The U17 players of Sporting Portugal were affected by the score, and they were all depressed. Leo, who was almost invisible in the first half, was in the worst mood, and his already dark face looked even darker. The warm-up youth team game is not so particular. The players of both sides walked to their respective coaches' benches and listened to the head coach's tactical arrangements for the second half of the game while resting. The fans chatted in groups of 3 or 4, but the family members were more considerate, and went to give their children a bottle of drinking water. Miguel Mario walked to the rest area of the Porto U17 youth team with a smile, and threw the drink in his hand to Martin. This is the sports drink prepared by your mother and brought from Porto. Martin took the drink, then looked up to find Clara Anna in the auditorium, smiled and swaggered before unscrewing his head to drink. The sports drink my mother made is still so delicious. I want to drink the drink my aunt made. Felix felt that the Gatorade in his hand was not fragrant when he heard the words. Oh. I want to drink too. Goalkeeper Diogo Costa has been hungry for a long time since he drank Martin's own sports drink last time. Hearing what Felix said, he hurriedly raised his hand to sign up. A bottle of sports drink is only so much, and sharing a little bit with teammates is a little bit less. Martin is speeding up his head and drinking until he drank it all. Immediately, he burped Felix and Diogo Costa. "It's delicious." The two agreed to give Martin the middle finger. Hey. The scouts in the auditorium took the time to summarize when everyone was relaxing, and made a scout report on the technical characteristics of suitable young players. Throughout the first half, the most dazzling players were Felix, who scored, and Martin, who assisted. Leo, Felix, Havertz, Zaniolo and Kluivert Jr. are currently the 5 most famous talented strikers in Europe at the age of 99. Martin can freeze Leo. It can be seen that his defensive ability is very outstanding. He also arranged the entire right, paralyzing the left attack of Sporting Portugal U17. Played in the first half, the technical characteristics can fill a page. Features: excellent defensive ability, especially one-on-one, strong round-trip running ability, abundant physical fitness, fast speed, accurate cross placement, strong sense of cooperation, good leadership. Weaknesses: the physical resistance is obviously insufficient, the technique under the feet is not delicate enough, the dribbling ability is weak, and the header ability is average. With distinctive features and shortcomings, it is easy to see Martin's trainability. Although he is 2 years older than the 99-year-old, the 17-year-old still has enough prospects for training. There are very few fullbacks who have truly balanced offense and defense in the entire world of football. Among the post-95 players, only Leipzig Red Bull Joshua Kimmich and Luke Shaw, who joined Manchester United in June this year, have the potential to be a top fullback. Football is a team sport, and any position can produce ceiling players. As the players born in the 80s came to the twilight of their careers, the post-90s gradually became the backbone, and the post-95s took on the new hope of world football. The 17-year-old Martin has enough potential to be tapped. Of course, most scouts are not in a hurry to draw conclusions. According to their scouting manual, players like Martin who have not had detailed records in the past have to continue to investigate patiently. If there is potential, it is entirely possible to apply to the club for further investigation, so as to ensure that the players have enough potential to be tapped. However, there are also individual scouts who believe that Martin's current ability is sufficient, and it will be too late if he waits until the continuous follow-up and investigation stage to make a decision. At that time, facing various competitors, the price paid will be much higher than it is now. After all, Porto is well known for being nicknamed European Black Shop. When Martin's potential is fully revealed, the cost will be several times or even dozens of times that of the current one. Taking away young players with great training value earlier means saving a lot of costs. It's just a premature decision, and it's easy to bear too high uncertain high-risk factors. The lack of continuous follow-up inspection means that there is not enough understanding of the real situation of the player. Any athlete has ups and downs. If you make a decision based on a game, you are afraid of buying mediocre players. However, the realization of young players' talents is often full of uncertainty, and there are many talented players in world football who eventually become mediocre. Barcelona Boyan, Inter Milan Balotelli, Manchester United Morrison, Milan Paloschi, Arsenal Wilshere. At the same time, there are also players with mediocre talents and qualifications who eventually grow into top players with extraordinary efforts. Bierhoff, Klose, Inzaghi, Dirk, Tony. All in all, whether young players can play is not entirely dependent on talent, but also depends on personal self-discipline and hard work. Thinking of this, he made up his mind to recommend Martin, who played well in half the game, to the boss. Simon expressed sufficient recognition of the team's overall performance in the first half, but the tactical arrangement in the second half was only tinkering, and there was not much to add. With a few minutes left before the second half began, players on good terms got together. Dalit, Diogo Costa and Felix were promoted from U15 to U17 in the same batch. They have a good relationship. Influenced by the good relationship between Felix and Martin, the relationship between the four is currently the best in the team. Brother Ma, give me another assist in the second half. Felix put his arm around Martin's shoulders, flatteringly said, I only scored 1 goal, which is a bit small. Dalit, who served as Martin's substitute, raised his middle finger directly, are you too greedy? I thought to myself that with Brother Ma as the Buddha, I couldn't even get the chance to be a substitute. Fortunately, my eldest brother will report to U19 after finishing the Tri-Wizard tournament, and then I can fight for the U17 starter through hard work. Hey! A soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier, and a striker who doesn't want to score goals is not a top striker. Felix chuckled. As Ronaldo scored more and more goals in a single season, as an avid fan, he naturally wanted to follow in the footsteps of his idol and score more goals. When attacking in the middle, lean towards me more. I believe that with our tacit understanding, you should be able to receive my pass. Martin thought for a while, and put his backhand on Felix's shoulder. It's up to you whether you can seize the opportunity. To assess an excellent fullback, in addition to having strong defensive skills, he must also make achievements on the offensive end. He knew that youth team games like the Tri-Wizard tournament would definitely have scouts on the scene. It might be good to send one assist in a single game, but he still wants to do better. Assist teammates twice or even 3 times to score, showing full dominance on the right. Dallet looked at Martin with admiration beyond words. The 15-minute halftime break ended quickly, and both sides of the game returned to the court one after another. In the second half, Porto U17 kicked off at the referee's whistle. Through the cumbersome passing and running cooperation, the Portugal Sports U17 defense line was gradually compressed to the right. Paulo Estrella, who received the pass from Felix, was short in stature but had a very wide vision. He slammed the football to the right with the heel of his left foot while attacking the left rib, and then sent a long diagonal pass with his right foot. The football rising from the ground quickly flew from the attacking left rib to the attacking right. Estrella has a wide vision and a strong sense of passing, but his shortcomings are lack of accuracy and low kicking power. Martin ran to the position according to Simon's tactical requirements but had to break suddenly to wait for the ball. Fortunately, Sporting Portugal's U17 defensive focus has been pulled to the right. They are young players aged 15 to 17 who lack defensive discipline, resulting in almost no man's land in defense on the left. It is equivalent to giving Martin more time to wait for the ball, observe and think about how to deal with it. Football is always the most eye-catching on the field. Under the attention of the audience, Martin stopped the ball with his chest and stopped the bouncing football with the sole of his right foot to a comfortable distance in front of him. Step forward with your left foot for half a meter, and quickly complete a pass with your right foot. Rebchuk, who pulled back to the opposing defender on the left to defend, was late. Leo, who was actively running, was also half a beat slower, and could only watch helplessly as the football rose from the ground and bypassed the front point and flew to the middle of the penalty area. Mady Quetta ran towards the front of the small penalty area to take away Conte's defense. Guilherme Ramos, who was standing on the penalty spot, judged the landing point and planned to use the arch of his left foot to clear the ball. At this moment, a blue and white striped figure appeared in his peripheral vision. I was shocked in my heart. It was too late to react. All he could do was to witness the Porto U21 player wearing the number 17 jersey take the first step and use his body to stop the ball forward. Then quickly adjust the step point, support the left foot, and slam the football down to the calf height with the right instep. Fuck. Goalkeeper Maximiano fully felt the violent energy attached to the whistling football. His brain was running at high speed, thinking that he didn't seem to offend Felix in the U15 country. Why do you want to shoot at such a close distance? Pretty. The heavy football crashed into the snow-white net. Porto U17 coach Simon raised his arms excitedly, and punched it out. End of this chapter. Chapter 12 Potential has no upper limit, please recommend tickets. At the beginning of the second half, Porto U17 used Martin's unmarked opportunity on the right to assist Felix to expand the score and turn the score into 2-0. Felix, who scored twice, turned around with a small body, avoided the bear hug of the little black Mady Quetta, and rushed excitedly to Martin who sent the assist. Since U9, Felix has been the captain of Porto's youth teams at all levels, but he has not grown in size as he grows older. He has always been in a skinny state, so he heard some rumors. U15 was promoted to U17, not really invincible in U15, but to make him retreat in the face of difficulties. Portugal's youth academy respects and encourages young players to skip grades. They believe that true geniuses can definitely stand out among players who are 1 or 2 years older than them, and they should be eliminated if they don't adapt. However, everyone's physical development period is different, and the thinness in childhood does not mean that it will still be the same in adulthood. According to acquaintances, Felix knows that the technical department of the youth training camp will make an updated assessment of himself within 3 months, and may be interviewed. In the past 10 days, I took the initiative to practice more with Martin to cultivate a tacit understanding, just to show different characteristics in the Triwizard tournament. He wants to show youth training director Paul Noga that the outcome of a game can still be decided without a strong body. In the first and second half, they scored twice with the tacit cooperation with Martin, and they were naturally very excited. Paul Noga, the director of youth training who was watching the game, thought deeply, and his brain was already thinking deeply. Can some of the necessary requirements be relaxed for true geniuses? Suddenly, he thought of why Benfica's youth training was successful. They are all focusing on youth training plus intermediaries. Why is Benfica more successful? The reason is simple, that is, Benfica's youth training only looks at the football talent shown by the players. As for other aspects, they are not important considerations. In the final analysis, it is still affected by performance that causes one's own thinking to become narrow. This is often the case, the more you want to make achievements, the harder it is to make them. Felix hugged Martin tightly, and said excitedly, "Thank you, Martin. It's just a manifestation of your ghostly running position and your ability to seize opportunities in front of the goal." "Hey, that's..." Felix smiled happily. "Virtue." Rui Pires scolded with a smile, "I don't know how to be ashamed." Head coach Simon looked at the players huddled together to celebrate the goal, feeling very emotional. Especially when he looked at Martin, he was both relieved and uncomfortable. The good news is that Martin can finally go from U17 to a higher echelon, and even has the ability to go to U23 and even the B team. The uncomfortable thing is that the outbreak was too late, and it was almost time to persuade him to quit. "Boy Martin, I hope you can stabilize your mentality and realize your talent." Scouts standing in the fans again add new technical features to the 2 names in the evaluation manual. Joao Felix, flexible and changeable running positions, excellent sense of smell in front of the goal, and strong sense of grabbing points. Martin, has the habit of observing in advance, has a strong ability to read the game, participates decisively in the attack, has a very high placement rate, is good at finding open teammates to run, and is very accurate in crossing. Steve Rowley, who had already contacted Boss during the halftime break, was different from most scouts. He was now holding an ultra-high-definition camera to shoot Martin in all directions. The Porto fans in the stands were very excited, celebrating Felix's lightning goal at the beginning of the second half. The Portuguese sports fans spread their hands depressed, and did not blame the young players on the field. Players in the U17 age group are still young, and they simply cannot complete high-quality games like professional games. Therefore, some fans also took the initiative to applaud the young players, hoping that the youth team players of their beloved team can regain their strength and get up from where they fell. The Sporting U17s did put in some impressive performances in the restart, but there were few shots on goal that really threatened Diogo Costa. Martin's defense on the right is completely dominant, which is reassuring. The defense on the left and the center relied on the advantage of numbers to complete the tactics arranged by the head coach Simon. After gaining a firm foothold, they began to counterattack, trying to further expand the score and kill the game. However, as the U17 players of Sporting Portugal strengthened the restrictions on Martin and Felix, the shortcomings of no one's threat pass were fully exposed. Felix has a thin body, and it is difficult to make a difference in the face of close defense. In order to continue to play well, he had to increase his range of activities to actively receive passes from his teammates. Continuous close defense and fighting wits, his physical strength is already a short board, and he is getting more and more uncomfortable playing. When the time came to 10 minutes, the running coverage decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye. Simon realized it was time for a substitution. In the 63rd minute of the game, Rui Pedro replaced Felix. Felix was replaced, and the Porto U17 youth team did not change much on both offense and defense. Especially on the defensive end, it is as stable as ever. Martin showed super toughness and defensive ability in the face of continuous attacks from Leo and other players on the right. He successfully defended again and again and made the opponent return without success, bringing an endless sense of security to the whole team. Defense and offense complement each other, and the offensive momentum is strong enough to release the pressure on the defense. In the same way, a tough defense can allow the midfielders to let go of their psychological burden and devote themselves to offense wholeheartedly. The slight disadvantage is that the attack is thunderous and rainy, and opportunities are created but no players can send the ball into the goal. Time passed by second, and the offense of Sporting Portugal U17 began to develop to the right and center again. Facing a defense that can free up enough people, there are really not many ways. Leo, who was placed high hopes by the Portuguese sports fans, was directly defended by Martin without any confidence at all. The overall offense was sluggish, and football soon fell to the feet of the outstanding Leo. He didn't hesitate to receive a pass from his teammate, either to return it, or to shoot a cold shot outside the penalty area when he was far enough away from Martin. The long-range shot under the impatience has a pitiful low hit rate. The head coach Maritimo saw Leo impatiently complete an outrageous long shot again, and he yelled towards the warm-up area, "Cabral, come back and prepare to replace Rafael." With Leo being substituted, Sporting's U17 offense became even more sluggish. Both sides have an offensive, but there is a lack of players who can send the ball into the opponent's goal. The coaches of both sides began to deploy troops. The Tri-Wizard tournament was originally a warm-up match, mainly to examine players. When the time was up, players were replaced in batches, even the goalkeeper. Martin is extremely important to Porto's U17 defense, and he has no problem with his physical fitness. He was replaced by Dalot until the end of the game. "Dear Miguel, am I doing okay?" Martin, who left the stadium, went straight to the auditorium, raised his hand and high-fived Miguel Mario, who raised his arms. "Hey, it has the style I used to have." Miguel Mario was once a genius in Porto's youth training, but unfortunately his injuries were severe, and he was sentenced to death before he could participate in the professional league, so he had to retire early. "Don't listen to your dad's nonsense, you are much better than him." Clara Anna gave Martin the thumbs up. After casually chatting a few more words, Martin waved to the bench and hugged the coaches and teammates. Felix stood on tiptoe and put his right hand on Martin's shoulder. "The next game, let's continue to make big scenes. If you want a pie, just say so." Diogo Costa, who was substituted only a few minutes earlier, quipped. "You don't want to eat the cake." "Hey, I'll definitely eat it if I have the chance, but usually, I don't want to eat the cakes that Brother Martin gave me." Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed happily. In stoppage time, Sporting Portugal U17 striker Cabral used Porto U17 substitute goalkeeper Ricardo Silva to drop the ball and make a supplementary shot to make the score 1-2. But this goal was too late for them. Beep beep beep. Not long after, the referee raised both hands and blew his whistle, 2 short and 1 long. The game is over. With Martin assisting Felix twice, Porto U17 defeated Sporting U21-17. Logically speaking, Felix, who scored $2 alone, is the player who has attracted the most attention. The game just ended was an exception. Martin became the best player in the game with his 2 assists, efficient round-trip running and 100% defensive success rate. The scouts of each team who came to the scene to inspect the players reported to the higher authorities one after another, saying that they had found a good seed. The importance of the Tri-Wizard tournament is completely negligible, but it does not affect the attention of scouts for players who perform well. After all, there are very few outstanding defenders in today's football. Today's fullbacks are either strong in offense and weak in defense, or strong in defense and weak in offense. It has been a long time since there has been a fullback with strong offense and defense, although Martin's current shortcomings are still relatively obvious. Because he is young enough, only 17 years old, and he still has strong plasticity in the future. Porto Youth Training Director Paul Noga, who supervised the battle, was very happy with a smile on his face. Before there was the talent of Martin's strong return, and later there was the unique talent of Felix. Originally, he planned to eliminate Felix, the weak captain of the youth teams at all levels, in the next few months. With Martin and Felix's frequent connections to create murderous intentions, Felix's unrevealed ability was also revealed. Fortunately, this is the case, otherwise the golden lacquer signboard of the Porto Youth Training will become the laughing stock of the entire Portuguese youth training circle. No matter how good Martin's performance is, he is only a defensive player, and his worth can be raised to the level of 4,000 to million euros at most. This summer, 19-year-old Luke Shaw joined Manchester United for only £3,000 million with his account book. Offensive player Felix is different and younger. The highest transfer fee in today's world football has exceeded million euros. Train Felix well, not to mention surpassing the record for the highest transfer fee for a Portuguese player created by Ronaldo, but at least it will not be too far behind. Once his worth reaches the height of Ronaldo, he will also become famous as the youth training director and become a senior youth training director in the industry. Appreciation and salary increase, that is no problem at all. I have to say that Paul Noga is really forward-looking. It's just that he didn't expect that Martin's potential, plug-in, has no upper limit, and his future achievements will definitely be higher than Felix's. End of this chapter. Chapter 13 Temperature Difference Sign. London, Hertfordshire, Kearney Training Base. First team training ground. Wenger, who was watching the players training, received a call from his old buddy Steve Rowley, and after a few words with his assistant Steve Boulder, he went to the office building. Log into your mailbox and open the email. Absolute genius, dominant super fullback, if you miss it, you will have to wait another 20 years. This guy is still such a headline party. The corner of Wenger's mouth raised, and he found that the title was wrong, and muttered, "Didn't you go to investigate Rafael Leo, Joao Felix, and Diogo Costa? I remember they didn't play fullbacks. What's the situation?" Wenger, who always likes to promote young talents, has been searching the world for young players with outstanding talents, so he asks Steve Rowley to visit the world from time to time. Having said that, he still trusts the vision of his old partner who has been working with him for many years, holding the mouse with his slightly trembling right hand and clicking to download the video. It turns out that Martin was the one who called me earlier, so I just said. Only then did Wenger remember that the phone call just now was too loud and he couldn't hear clearly. The recorded video is carefully edited, and the content is more than half an hour. Why is the highlights of a game so long? Could it be caused by inflexible hands and feet like me? With doubts, he picked up the reading glasses on the computer table, put them on, and began to watch the video sent by Steve Rowley seriously. When the video is played, the first displayed content is to investigate the basic information of the players. Martin. Wenger frowned, especially when he saw that the nationality column was Dragon Country. He felt like turning off the video. Out of trust in my old partner, I continue to look down. The current captain of the Porto U17 youth team has been selected for the U15 and U17 national youth teams in Portugal, and completed the naturalization procedures for naturalization in the middle of last month. He serves as a right back. It's no wonder that Steve values it. He has been selected for the Portuguese national youth, and his strength should not be bad. Seeing this, Wenger looked serious, and even his sitting posture was quite correct. Features: solid defense, calmness far beyond his peers, very fast, excellent round-trip running ability, abundant physical fitness, strong rhythm from defense to offense, and a relatively accurate cross. Weaknesses: thin body, insufficient confrontation ability, dribbling and ball control ability needs to be strengthened, weak heading ability, may not be able to adapt to the rhythm of the Premier League in a short time. Summary: possesses all the makings of a top fullback. It seems that Steve is very optimistic about this young man named Martin. The text explanation is over, and the real highlight is staged. Martin's game video highlights. Facing the optimistic 99-year-old talented winger Leo, Martin performed very calmly, fighting and retreating. No matter how the opponent used fake moves, he was unmoved, and he didn't make a move until the moment Leo couldn't hold back and dialed the ball to break through. The moment he stepped down was quite decisive, and Leo was not given a chance to react at all. Then he unexpectedly launched an attack, handed the ball to his teammates and ran at full speed close to the right sideline. The wide angle of attack is perfect. It is very clever to use unreasonable waving to accelerate when receiving a pass from a teammate, which fully makes up for his weak dribbling ability. During the high-speed running, I took the time to observe the running positions of my teammates. The field of vision was relatively wide, and the pass was very thoughtful. It was given to Felix, who was unmarked at the end. The original intention of sending Steve Rowley to Lisbon was to investigate Portuguese talents such as Felix, Leo, Diogo Costa, Ruben Dias, etc., so he had a special understanding of these players. As Arsenal's meritorious coach, his coaching career has just ushered in a complete number 30 years. It is natural to know that Felix's goal is actually very simple, but Martin's pass is more difficult. The next game still showed a very high level, the defense was impeccable, and one man was in charge. The offense can also be plugged in time to give teammates the greatest support. The rhythm of offensive and defensive transitions is very accurate, and the round-trip ability is indeed excellent, but the crossing ability needs to be strengthened. Accurate crosses are all based on unmarked situations. As long as the defenders stepped up their defense, the accuracy of crosses plummeted. After watching the entire video, Wenger has a general understanding of Martin. According to the characteristics shown in the video, it is indeed very talented. However, the team's main right-back is the French international Debussy, and the substitute is Bellerin, who was dug from Barcelona. No matter how talented Martin is, he can only serve as the second substitute. In addition, the youth academy also has Owen Moore. The most important thing is that according to personal information, Martin's nationality has been changed from Portugal and Argentina to the Dragon country, so there is no way to directly apply for a labor certificate. Even the echelons of the youth team and the reserve team are not eligible to participate in the competition. It is difficult to continue to become stronger by training alone. Only by participating in high-quality competitions while conducting high-level training can players gradually realize their talents. At that time, even if you buy it, it will be loaned to a satellite club. The lack of personal guidance will be very detrimental to the growth of young players. Thinking of this, Wenger called Steve Rowley back. Martin's ability and talent are indeed rare geniuses. The problem is that his current nationality cannot apply for a labor certificate. However, we can continue to follow up and investigate, and wait until Martin has the potential to become a top player before he can find a way to pass the special talent clause. After all, this thing can only succeed once a year. Besides, the Premier League pays attention to physical confrontation. With Martin's current thin body, it is difficult to adapt to the rhythm of the Premier League, and he may even lose confidence because of it. Not worth the candle. Steve Rowley, who hung up the phone, smiled wryly. He basically guessed that Professor Wenger would not agree to sign Martin immediately. He was really optimistic about Martin's talent, so he recommended it to Wenger after watching a game. It's a pity, however. At this time, he couldn't help but think in his heart. The media, who are afraid that the world will not be chaotic, report from time to time temperature signature. In fact, it is not unreasonable to think about it. It is undeniable that Wenger is really good at digging young demons and has made extraordinary achievements. It is also true that he will fully consider various factors, so that he will eventually miss talented players. For example, in La Masia back then, it was originally recommended to sign Messi and Pique, but due to various factors, only Cesc Fabregas was signed. Immediately afterwards, he remembered the scene that happened in Southampton 8 years ago, and the situation was almost the same as today. There were two great talents in the Southampton youth training back then, the kind who lived in the same dormitory. Both talented players could have been signed, but at that time, in order to pay off the debts of the newly built Emirates Stadium, they saved money and cut expenditures. Considering Ashley Cole and Clichy at left back and giving up Bale, only Walcott was finally signed. When it comes to thin body, I think of Yaya Touré, who was optimistic back then. Thinking of this, Steve Rowley smiled. He felt that he was thinking too much. At most, he thinks that Martin can reach the height of Ashley Cole at most. How can he become a supergiant like Bell and Yaya Touré? As the most professional scout, I just regret that the unit failed to sign a talented player. By the way, after investigating a few geniuses in Portugal, I will go to Norway again. You can pay attention to Martin Ødegaard and Erling Haaland. I will email you the specific information. After half a minute, Wenger remembered something and called again. The community professional football field outside the Portuguese national training base ended the match between Porto U19 and Sporting Lisbon U19. Affected by the overall strength gap, the game trend is one-sided. 0-3. The same is true for the U23 game played later, and in the end it was easily won by Sporting U23. That night, the scouts who watched the three U-shaped games began to summarize and pay attention to the technical characteristics and shortcomings of the players, whether they conform to the club's concept of introducing players, and then sent them to the sports director after sorting out. The assistant coaches of Sporting Lisbon and Benfica reported the game status of the day to the head coach in person, and Porto assistant Pablo Sans reported to Lopetegui by phone. The three teaching assistants have different speaking skills, but they have one thing in common. That is the performance of Martin of the Porto U17 youth team is very eye-catching, showing extremely strong dominance, sweeping the entire right, especially suppressing the talented winger Rafael Leo. Huge contrast, isn't it coming out? Lopetegui listened to the assistant's report and immediately became interested, but considering that the right-back position of the first team is sufficient, he instead told Pablo Sanz to continue to observe Martin's performance. If the performance against Benfica U17 continues to be outstanding, it can be given priority when injuries occur when the league heats up. Like Ruben Neves, who was just promoted, he is very talented. Not to mention the high level of training, he is also extremely calm, a typical young and mature. With a little cultivation, it can be completely independent. Martin, who was playing with his mobile phone at the Portuguese national training base, naturally didn't know that he had become the focus of everyone's attention. He just wanted to play with his mobile phone happily, wait for his roommate Felix to fall asleep, and go to the toilet before entering the system training ground. At this moment, the voice of the system guide sounded in my mind, "Master, I don't know if I should say something." "You said." Actually, only consciousness enters the training ground of the system, and the body is still in the real world. Martin's pupils shrank sharply. "Why didn't you say it earlier?" The system wizard was very wronged. "You didn't ask." "The new book needs your great support," recommended Ticket. "I beg you, okay. Keep following up as much as possible, love you guys." End of this chapter. Chapter 14 Familiar Formula, Unexpected Teamwork. Porto U17's final match in the Triwizard tournament comes 2 days later against Benfica U17. That's a really talented super team. The first brother of the Portuguese youth training. Genius of geniuses. Coach Simon felt a little nervous, even though he now has the super trump card of Martin. After all, football is a team sport. After all, individual efforts cannot be compared with the team. However, the existence of Martin can increase the probability of the team winning to a new level. Dominating the entire right flank means that the team's tactics and formation positions can be greatly adjusted. In addition, Martin's aura of being the one who is the only one in charge will also bring strong self-confidence to the players. How much a person achieves depends more on whether his heart is strong enough. With Martin, the confidence of the team members has also been greatly increased. But then again, whether it can play a role depends on Martin's specific performance in the game. Once the momentum starts to turn the entire right lane into its own back garden, the whole team will be greatly motivated. Beating Benfica U17 will be easy. After Simon explained the tactics of the game, he put his right hand on Martin's right shoulder and said solemnly, "Martin, the most critical point of whether we can beat Benfica U17 lies with you. If we can completely restrict the left attack of Benfica U17, there is no doubt that you will win. Do you have the confidence to do it?" Martin turned his head and looked not far away, where is the base camp of Benfica U17. Among these players, only Renato Sanchez, Ruben Dias and Gedson Fernandes are familiar. None of the others had an impression, which means that none of them could be kicked out in the end. At the age of 16 and 17, the three hopeful stars who are highly expected by Benfica fans look very young, and only Renato Sanchez has a maturity beyond his age. He looks older. Certainly confident. Withdrawing his gaze, he looked down at the captain's armband worn on his left upper arm, and nodded with a smile. Immediately afterwards, he impassionedly asked his teammates loudly, "Do you have the confidence to beat Benfica U17 here?" "Of course." Felix, Ricardinho, Mati Quetta and 3 Diogo and other players shouted in unison. Simon looked at Martin with more and more satisfaction, not to mention gradually fulfilling his talent, and showing strong leadership. If he regains his former vigor earlier, he is now the backbone of the U19 and even U23 teams, and may even be promoted to the first team like Ruben Neves. On the other end, the Benfica U17 players didn't pay much attention to the Porto U17 players, even though Mafe defeated the Portuguese Sporting U17 in this stadium 3 days ago. Benfica's youth training has been recognized as the #1 in Portugal in the past few years, and various championship titles have won soft hands. The players are honored, and they are the proud sons of heaven, geniuses among geniuses, and have the capital of arrogance. After explaining the tactics of the game, head coach Herder Cristovo cheered the players with applause, and said, "This team has lost to us for 8 consecutive years. I firmly believe that after the game, it will be 9. Streak. Victory." The players shouted in unison. Benfica U17 sent the strongest lineup in theory. Except for the goalkeeper Fabio Duarte, who is weaker than Diogo Costa, the other three lines are stronger than Porto U17. 4-33 formation, with Portugal U17 national youth main defender Ruben Dias in the backcourt, and his partner Diogo Cabral is quite stable. There are also Diogo Mendes and Renato Sanchez in the midfield, and Gedson Fernandes, Eddie Semedo, and Hoda Jr. charge forward and destroy the city. If it is the former Porto U17, there will definitely be great scruples. Now with Martin giving them enough confidence, everyone wants to give the pretentious Portuguese youth training best U17 youth team a blow in this stadium. Martin served as the captain and walked at the forefront of the team. Then there is the most common handshake part of the game, which means that friendship comes first and competition comes second. But the arrogance of the Benfica U17 players made the Porto U17 players feel a little uncomfortable. It is also true that the confident Porto U17 has greater determination to defeat the mighty Benfica U17. Beep. The whistle sounded, and the 2014 Triwizard Tournament U17 Championship, the match between Benfica U17 youth team versus Porto U17 youth team officially started. Porto U17 took the lead in the kickoff, and the head coach Simon formulated an offensive routine with Martin as the core before the game, which was proceeding in an orderly manner. The passing speed is not fast, and the movement between players is very frequent. Benfica U17 players are indeed geniuses, but it is difficult for players of this age to have 100% tactical discipline and are easy to be led by the nose. Held knew that Porto U17's offense mainly relied on Martin plus Felix, and the starting point of the offense was also on the right, so he also formulated corresponding defensive tactics before the game. However, the players' defensive positions will always shift back and forth with Porto U17's offense, inadvertently exposing fleeting defensive gaps. After a series of offensive preparations, Estrella, who attacked the left flank, unexpectedly received the football and dunked the ball back. From the corner of the eye, I noticed that Benfica's U17 defensive center of gravity was completely tilted to the right. Including the left back, left central midfielder and left forward are all attracted to the center or right, which means that the defensive left is almost wide open. Martin, who was originally on the same level as the defense line, pressed forward quietly, but when he saw the football was passed to Estrella, who was in charge of dispatching the long pass, he decisively started. Pay attention to the defense on the left. Head coach Herder suddenly noticed that the Porto U17's familiar offensive routine was suddenly offered and blurted out. His voice was loud enough, and there were no tens of thousands of fans shouting violently like a tsunami, so the players on the field could hear it clearly. How can a person's movement speed be confused with the movement of a football? Estrella sent a more accurate wide-range diagonal long pass in the attacking left rib. The pass was good this time. Considering that Estrella's long pass is not particularly stable, Martin followed up at full speed after judging the long pass with a certain amount of advance. Familiar formula, familiar taste. However, it is impossible to prevent it. It was too late for Benfica U17's Dutch left-back Frimpong to come out to defend, and Martin still had enough time to observe his teammates' running positions while running. Before the game, Herder mentioned that Martin and Felix were connected. When Martin could not be defended, Captain Ruben Dias focused on Felix. However, Martin didn't want to go to Felix at all. He knew that Benfica U17 must have a coach who watched the last game against Sporting Portugal U17 and would impose restrictions in this game. Offensive routines are dead, but people are alive. If the perimeter offensive personnel are too far away from the goal, the defense will naturally be neglected. It is too late to wait until the offense is substantiated before moving. Martin made a small mistake in raising his leg to stop the ball while running, and the distance to stop the ball was more than 1 meter farther than expected. Fortunately, Frimpong is a little far away, so the impact is not too great. Coincidentally, it is the unexpected opportunity brought by the slightly longer stopping distance. At the same time, he shook Frimpong, who was pulled out to defend. Observing for a second longer, Martin saw that Felix's running position completely attracted the attention of the two central defenders, Ruben Dias and Diogo Cabral. Mati Quetta, who has limited future achievements, made a conscious stop and turned a corner, handing over the middle of the penalty area to Felix. Martin probably guessed Mati Quetta's intentions. Turn to the far end of the restricted area. This is Xiao Hei's habitual running habit displayed on the training ground. With a firm idea, Martin swung his right foot without hesitation, and the ball touched the inside of the instep. The kicked football rose up from the right, and flew over before Frimpong, who hastily pulled out to defend and was shaken, was in place. The football flying into the air past 2 meters in front of Ruben Dias, Felix and Cabral with an obvious instep arc from outside to inside. The tall Ruben Dias looked at the ball and tried to stretch his legs to reach it, but he didn't touch the football. Goalkeeper Duarte looked at the football as it moved, and was shocked. Oops. It was too late for right-back Ricardo Mongas to get close to Mati Quetta, and he could only watch helplessly as the opponent completed a kick. Cross. Mati Quetta is very self-aware, knowing that the high probability of swiping his left foot at the left front of the small penalty area will result in an anti-aircraft gun. So it was rare for him to be smart for a while when he was physically fit. He used the arch of his left foot to pass the football that fell to knee height horizontally to the penalty spot. Half-inverted triangle pass. No one thought that Mati Quetta would pass the ball with a certain shooting angle, and everyone froze in place. Ricardinho's ghostly presence is where the pass lands. I saw him adjusting his step while running, supporting his body with his right foot, and pointing towards the ball with the tight arch of his left foot. Goalkeeper Fabio Duarte looks at the football changing direction and heading towards the bottom right corner of the goal, GK perspective. Just as his body was getting ready to hit the ground, the football quickly swept towards the lower left corner of the goal. Almost rubbing against the inner edge of the left goal post, from the perspective of the attacking side, and crashing into the snow-white net. Martin, who sent the cross, had already thought that Mati Quetta would fire anti-aircraft guns with a high probability, and even thought that the probability of hitting was extremely small to complete the goal. Unexpectedly, he saw Ricardinho and stepped into the middle of the penalty area. This ball, the pass is so damn beautiful. The head coach Simon did not expect such a beautiful goal. None of the offensive tactics formulated and practiced before the game had such a goal. The performance of the players on the spot is really good. End of this chapter. Chapter 15. The Iron Tree blooms, creates a penalty. The defensive players in the Benfica U17 penalty area spread their hands one by one. Obviously did not expect that Porto U17, who had been looked down upon by them, would score a lightning-fast team goal at the beginning of the game. Head coach Herder stood on the scene with a depressed expression on his face. This conceded goal is a replica of the opening stage of the first U17 game against Porto U17 in Portugal. The difference is that Sporting Portugal U17 conceded the ball first because Leo tried to break through Martin in the opening game, which caused the problem of switching from offense to defense. In the opening stage of this game, Porto U17 used continuous pass and cut cooperation to open a special opening tactic for Martin. There is no direct assist to score the goal, but the assist for the goal is created by Martin. From a goal point of view, his role is still very important. A cross of more than 30 meters can also accurately find teammates at the far end of the penalty area, which is a very good performance for a U17 player. Porto U17 coach Simon was particularly satisfied with the goal scored by Ricardinho. This is completely a team-style super goal. The goals were completed by Mati Quetta and Ricardinho, but Martin contributed a lot. The scouts in the auditorium are experts, so they can see it naturally, so they look at Martin with fiery eyes. There was a trace of regret in Steve Rowley's eyes. He is the chief scout of Arsenal and only has the right to make suggestions. The right to buy and sell is still in Wenger's hands. If you don't accept the suggestion, there's nothing you can do about it. A scout from a Bundesliga team saw Martin's performance on the offensive end, and his eyes flashed. The layman looks at the excitement and the insider looks at the doorway. The current right-back configuration of the club that hired him is relatively weak, and the number of injuries to the main right-back in previous seasons has increased. Not to mention missing a lot of games, the state has also declined seriously. The rotation of veterans is also unstable, causing frequent problems in the defense on the right. So much so that he had to use the midfielder as a right-back. The youth training academy had no young players to replace, so the sports director ordered the scouting department to search for young right-backs with outstanding abilities, outstanding talents, and certain immediate combat power across Europe. Seeing that the 2014 to 2015 Bundesliga season is half a month away, I feel more and more anxious. Many positions in the team lineup are at the middle and upper reaches of the Bundesliga, but the right-back is not equipped enough. If there is no way to replenish it earlier, the results of the new season will definitely be greatly affected. The most important thing is failure to fulfill the requirements of the sports director, not to mention the loss of bonuses, may also lead to a decline in the level of scouts. Just when he was frowning, the team's players from Porto's youth training said that Porto U17 had a right back with great potential, so they came to Lisbon with the mentality of giving it a try. His team style tends to be offensive, and the right back who matches the lineup naturally has a strong offensive ability. Not long after the start of the game, the Porto U17 right back showed a strong offensive talent on the offensive end. He feels this is God's best arrangement for him. However, as an experienced scout, I also know that some things cannot be rushed to conclusions. Still have to observe and observe. The game restarted, and Benfica U17, who were behind in the score, completely restrained their contempt and focused all their attention on how to break through Diogo Costa's goal. Martin is the most stable part of Porto U17. Benfica U17 coach Herder intends to imitate the tactics of France playing Italy in the 2000 European Cup final. Continuously attack the most stable link of the opponent. Then blow up. Herder's strategy is certainly good, using Gedson Fernandez's super dribbling ability to consume Martin's energy, and then using frequent cross attacks to open the gap. But, he found the wrong person. In addition to Martin's 95+ defensive ability, there is an additional 50% success rate. Gedson Fernandez's initiative is doomed to fail. Benfica U17 suffered Waterloo for 3 consecutive attacks on the left. If it weren't for Andy Queta's semi-single-handed ball and anti-aircraft guns, Porto U17 could even expand the score. Defensive ability, really strong. If the whole game is stable, he will immediately recommend it to the sports director. U17 players, the price will not be too expensive. Immediately, he remembered something, and quickly took out the ultra-clear camera and tripod from his backpack, went to the auditorium aisle to put it away, and aimed at Martin. On the court, Benfica U17's left attack did not achieve any results. On the contrary, it almost caused the ball to be lost, and the players with the ball are not as confident as they were in the previous stage. The breakthrough expert Gedson Fernandez held the ball and faced Martin again without the initial confidence. Until now, he did not believe what his Portugal U17 national teammate Leo, who played for the Portuguese U15, said on WhatsApp. Leo mentioned that Martin has a very terrifying sense of oppression in the national youth group many times. It is recommended not to try to break through one-on-one easily, otherwise you will easily lose confidence. This is the case with Gedson Fernandez now. Being able to play in multiple positions, he had the idea of retreating for the first time. At this time, he hoped that coach Herder would change his tactics. If a player loses his determination to break through, his performance will be greatly limited. Herder's on-the-spot scheduling ability is not bad, and he soon realized that Gedson Fernandez had the ball in his feet but did not break through, so he realized something. Taking advantage of the dead ball opportunity, he signaled the two wingers to exchange positions, and Herder Jr. continued to attack Martin's defensive hardness. The result can be said to be no suspense, and the assault ability is not as good as that of Gedson Fernandez, and it is even more impossible for Herder to complete a breakthrough. Porto U17's defensive pressure became less, and the offensive players' phase psychological burden was relieved, and the intensity of participating in the offense became more and more intense. Fortunately, the defensive system led by Ruben Dias is solid, and it does not give the trident composed of Felix, Madi Queta and Gomez Pinto too much room to attack. The three midfielders composed of Ricardinho, Rui Pires and Estrella can defend and organize well, but they are not creative. This also caused the offense to rely more on the two sides to initiate. Especially on the right. Benfica U17 obviously knew this, and they made targeted deployments before the game. It's a pity that Porto U17 was caught off guard at the beginning. The time passed by second, and soon came the 10 minutes of the whole game. The scoreboard shows that Porto U17 is still 1 goal ahead of Benfica U17. If there is professional ball possession ratio data for live games, it can be seen that the dominant Benfica U17 has an absolute ball possession advantage, and the ratio is infinitely close to 73. However, football games are like this: no matter how high the ball possession is, it will not necessarily rewrite the score, nor can it help the team get the lead. 5 minutes passed in a flash, and the fourth official held up a sign indicating 5 minutes of stoppage time. Remind both players that there is still 1 minute left in the first half. Porto U17 just took advantage of Martin's single defense ability on the right to cut off the ball at the feet of Gedson Fernandes, who returned to the left, and is launching a wave of offense from the backcourt to the frontcourt. Rui Pires handed the ball straight to Martin. Frimpong, who was not particularly fast, chose to foul decisively and stopped Martin on the spot. Porto U17 get a free kick to the right of the center line. Time is running out, and there is no such rush to move forward. It might even seem a little lazy to pass it on. I don't know if this atmosphere has affected the defensive attitude of the Benfica U17 players. Ricardinho, who received the football, saw Martin widen the angle of receiving the ball, and sent it over without hesitation. Gomez Pinto drew the attention of Gedson Fernandes, who was actively involved in the defense. Before receiving the ball, Martin consciously observed the positions of teammates and opponents around him. Seeing that there is not a very good pass angle, he originally planned to pass back to the responding central defender Diogo Wright. In the blink of an eye, Martin saw from the corner of his eye that Diogo Mendes' protection distance seemed insufficient, and he immediately had a new plan. Before that, his style of play had always been quite satisfactory, passing the ball when he had space. Basically, there will be no forced crosses, let alone breakthroughs. Indeed, his dribbling skills are a bit poor. But the speed is fast. Frimpong on the opposite side kept a distance of about 2 meters. There is some room for breakthrough. Diogo Mendes' position is almost parallel to Frimpong's, obviously to guard against him playing 2-over-2 with Rui Pires on the right rib. In this way, it means that the distance from the bottom line will be farther, and it will become more difficult to defend. What if you take advantage of the absolute speed advantage? So, the ever-changing football game should be decisive. Hesitation will lead to defeat. Just do it. I saw Martin pretending to pass the ball to Rui Pires, who came to attack the right flank. Frimpong has adapted to Martin's frequent passing method of finding teammates in the past. There was no doubt, only a subconscious leg extension to intercept. At this moment, Martin suddenly used the outer instep of his right foot to push the football toward the baseline. Use Manchester United winger Valencia's brainless start to accelerate. Depend on. Frimpong cursed inwardly. The explosive power was not as good as Martin's, and the center of gravity of the body had already been handed over. When changing the center of gravity, his feet suddenly slipped. Fall to the ground. Diogo Mendes plays high to help defend Rui Pires. I never thought that Martin, who never actively tried to break through, would blossom into iron trees, and unexpectedly accelerate the ball to the bottom line. Speed is not its own advantage, and what you can do is very limited. The lagging central defender Ruben Dias chose a good position, closer to Martin, and he did his part to fill the position from the middle of the penalty area to the left. Martin Fongchi, whose speed was fully raised, came to the edge of the penalty area on the right in a blink of an eye. He slows down a bit to make sure the ball is stable enough on the outside of his right foot. The ball felt good, and then the 2 feet quickly swept across the right sideline of the penalty area. Cut into the restricted area. Facing Ruben Dias, who was still very young, he chose to be simple and rude, and then repeated his old tricks after a short pause. The right foot steps towards the football, and the gesture is to use the outside instep to push the football forward to the right. Ruben Dias, who has strong anticipation ability, moved in his heart, and subconsciously stretched out his left foot to intercept the ball. Martin's right foot outside instep gesture is not flat, but with the 3 toes on the outside of the instep to pick up the ball. Only then did Ruben Dias realize that he had been cheated, and even his pants were cheated. But it's too late to stop. Oh no. The fatal thing happened to trip over Martin's trailing left foot. Beep. The referee's whistle and finger pointing to the penalty spot made him feel a little hopeless. Penalty. Ask for a recommendation ticket. The new issue is updated twice a day. Big brother, do it well. End of this chapter.